And I'd like to call the study meeting of the council to order. It's April 21, 2026. Please turn yourselves off or on silent and stand and repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Councilor Miera. Key. Councilor Oldman. Here. Councilor Knight.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
Councilor Alsobrook is absent, and Councilor Burkett is absent. Okay. Do we need to approve the agenda? There's only one item.
No, but actually the Municipal League is trying to get us to totally do away with approving the agenda. Apparently parliamentary procedure is we do not need to do that, but.
Okay, well, 30 less seconds. Okay, budget discussion. Melanie, you want to kick this off?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. So to start this off, I just want to recognize these 10, 11 people sitting before you today. They have between them 138 years of combined experience working for the village. So thank you for all your hard work. And this village would not be what it is without these department heads. They are the ones that come in and they sweat for the village. They are the ones in the trenches with the residents. Most residents know that they can call these department heads if they have an issue. And I think that says a lot about our village, that our residents are comfortable calling these department heads. So hopefully all of those communications are civil and grateful for the work that these people do. So thank you to all of you. A couple of key things on this budget. We went kind of conservative on our revenue estimates. We decided to keep the budget kind of flat in terms of our revenue projections. We are still seeing some gains in GRT, but we don't know how long that's going to last. And with the markets the way they are on the world scale, we decided it was best to go a little conservative on the projections. So some of the things that you'll see in this budget are, you'll notice the council costs for elected officials has gone up. That's because the raises that were voted on in 2024, 23 for all elected officials finally went into effect for the mayor and the 3 remaining council members. So this fiscal year will be the first full fiscal year with everybody making the same amount. Healthcare costs are going up for employees by 10%, so you'll see that reflected. The employee positions include a recommended 2.8 cost of living increase to go into effect July 1st. And that we landed on that number based on what Social Security got as their cost of living raise in January of this year. So that's reflected in here. This also includes all of the para increases, moving police and fire to Plan 5, and also picking up employee contributions. So that was already written into this year's fiscal year budget, but as you all know, we have not actually passed all those resolutions yet. And para has told us the earliest these will be able to take effect will be the first full pay period in August, which will be into the next fiscal year. But you'll notice the projections aren't too off from this fiscal year in terms of employee costs. It's mostly that cost of living raise that is affecting that. So we are requesting the same budget allocations for all of our boards and commissions as last year. So anything that the council gave them last year, we are asking that you give them again this year. And additionally, this budget, we didn't remove any requests that had been previously put in the budget for this fiscal year by council. So as you'll see, the money for animal services that Councilor Waldman has requested the last few years, that's a special fund. So that's included in here. And then the money for the on-call architect is still technically in the budget. Although I'd like to see if we can maybe work with Mr. Cog to try and get some planning services for the village. So I have emails out to Bianca Borg at the Cog to see if they can assist us with some of that. And it might involve a cost. So we might be able to funnel some of that money into planning services, and they might be able to help us with Councilor Mietta's request for sort of a master plan for our properties. I know we had started that with Main Street, and they kind of concentrated more on parking and trails, and that wasn't quite what council was looking for. So at some point, we may even want to have another work study for council to give some ideas, and maybe council wants to, each council member maybe wants to have a meeting with your constituents to get some ideas for what people in the village want to see with some of those properties. Because I think we need more input before we get a planner, because we need to know what people want. If we just throw out ideas and then the people are like, well, that's not what we want. We need to get some of those ideas first, and then we can start making plans. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tanya and Juliana. Oh, Counselor.
Yeah, just a couple of things. First of all, just as a reminder, we did have a meeting back in early September about the volunteer architects, and there were over 60 people who attended that, and there was some feedback from that. And secondly, a little disappointed. I've asked for this for several years in a row, that we have a budget narrative to go along with the numbers. What you just gave would be very helpful to know prior to us looking at the numbers and being blinded all weekend by this. So I think we'll probably cover everything today, but it would have been helpful to have that budget narrative. So I put in another request for next year.
Yep.
if
Well,
we do
we
that.
will work on that for next year. With all the changes we've had this year, it's been,
No, I know.
it's been a little challenging, but
Yep.
yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, and Administrator Romero, I was preparing that for the actual budget hearings that'll start in May. Because we don't know what that budget narrative is going to be until you, the council, come out and give us your budget narrative.
Have a chance.
Right now, we only
Yeah.
have department heads and administration, and the mayor did sit in on the meetings, but you guys could say no to COLAs, or you could say, no, we don't want a 2.8, we want a 4. So the first official hearing will have a budget narrative.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So Tanya and Juliana, we'll turn it over to you guys.
Hi, everyone. Juliana is the new finance director. She is playing double duty right now. She's trying to train with me in her spare time. She is still training the new accounts payable person. So please bear with us, but give her 6 months and she'll be right up there. So I am really sorry, when I created this, I did not put the recap in somehow with all the sheets I was pulling, but you did get your recap sheet. And my guess is we should just go through in order of department, except for the judges asked to go last, correct? Oh, the judge is online. So we'll go in order. Yes, sir.
Can we just talk about revenue first before we get into departments?
Oh, of course. So I did add 100,000 to the revenue, and that's because the sweep has never been added. Right now, I believe we're at 89,000 in the sweep, 84,528 in the sweep since October. So I went very conservative there also and only put 100,000 in for next year. I think since it's open, I think the mayor doesn't need to tell you.
Well, anyway, so the franchise tax is down. Is there a reason for that?
So one of the reasons the franchise tax is going to be down is there's a counselor sitting up at the podium named Counselor Murray, who really wanted to see the cell phone tower rentals broken out. And I'm working on breaking those out. So if you notice that year to date, we have $1,625 in cell phone. That when it came in, I caught it and put it into cell phone
Okay.
base rent. So I had to pull that amount out for next year.
Okay.
So it's still the same amount. And then we're looking, because Chief mentioned there's another cell phone company. So I'm going to make some phone calls and make sure we're getting that money as well.
Some of the year-to-date activities have no values. Is that because we just don't know?
So some of the year-to-date activities that have no values mean, like, the first one I'm going to see is, let me see your ruler.
Subdivision permits, just for grins.
The subdivision permits, have we had any? I think we may have had some. One of the things I did Friday night, was here till like 8, I left early, was I'm going through our revenue. We have had new people at the front desk, just since Bridget left, is I'm finding where revenue has been put in the wrong spot. And I'm working on making sure we have a clear direction to make sure it's in the right spot and have a whole highlighted area of revenue that we may move into the right line item this year. I also don't, some of it's so small, like 4 business license or in building permits. They may stay there for this year, but we're putting in some stuff, and Juliana has asked the people doing the receipting not to receipt over $500 without getting with someone in finance to make sure they're putting in the correct line item. So I believe we've had one subdivision review, and it's not in there because it's probably in building
How about
permits.
cannabis fees,
Cannabis fees are low.
Well, they also haven't, they don't get paid until June. So they only get
Yeah.
paid once a year. And same
But we
thing
do
with
get a
liquor
cannabis
licenses.
tax also, and that's been very low.
So my other concern I have is the court fines are projected at 43,000, but yet we've only taken in 7,000. So question is that exceedingly high, or are we,
Was that because of
That's a
the,
typo. No, that's a typo.
okay?
I will tell you, court fines, I think, are at 79,000. I did not increase it, but we're well over on that. Let me see if I, hold
To
on.
date, it just shows 69.
Yeah, that was my fingers probably missing a 7.
Okay.
Give me one
Okay.
second, because I do have a whole nother.
Try to get-
Is that the one we were talking about?
I don't know. That's not, no, that's the lodger's fee on that. Something else, but we'll get there.
As of Counselor Murray, what line number is the last
Well,
five?
this court fines is 35,020.
You.
It says 69.
So as of April 10th, court fines were 68,739. So that's a typo on my
Okay.
my part. I'm sorry.
Okay.
They're into the 70,000s now. But I know there's some rules about not budgeting off arrests and fines, so I left it at the 43.
Okay, well, that makes sense now. I mean,
I'm very sorry about that. That is
okay.
10
There's
o'clock
another
work.
typo on the lodger's tax, if you're a FYI. You had 200,000 on one figure and then 20,000 below.
Close for-
Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
And then
It's
It's
the, we've actually brought in less lodger's tax this year. We've only brought in about 10,000. We did get lodger's tax today, but we budget for 20 in revenue. And we'll be bringing a bar to you guys to bring their prior year cash forward. But no, they're right at 10,000. We're going to budget for them at 20,000 again.
Thank you.
Any more questions on revenue? Oh, I gotta speak into this even though I'm loud. Any more questions on revenue before we move
I
to,
think you've answered my questions, please.
Mayor, are we good to move to the executive? So the executive revenue, is gonna be 101,0100. You actually have a decrease in your budget because when I went through, and you guys will all get paid, all your raises are in there. When I went through, some of them were calculating wrong. So you will have a decrease in there of $4,164. And that includes the increase to the healthcare. And I did leave in dental insurance, even though only one person has dental insurance. We are getting a new dental, and I would hate for not to provide for insurance. But if anyone knows on the council, if you're going to pick up health insurance during open enrollment, please let me know so I can adjust these as well and don't have to wait till June.
Tanya, looking this over the last couple of days, there are a number of items that appear to be what the final budget revised was last year to the dollar, the same for next year.
Unless there is a reason like you overspent it or you guys decide you want to take, everyone's going to go to some big conference in an out of state.
Well,
There's really no reason to increase them.
I'm looking at property tax.
Oh, you're
Revenue.
going back to revenue.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have not increased property tax revenue yet because we have not got the May. So we know how much higher December came in. We will not get the final property tax revenues in until June.
I'm
So,
not talking about year-to-date activity. I'm talking about the projection for next year.
right, but we didn't raise the projection because we don't know what those are going to be yet because we haven't got all the money in yet to project off of it.
And that's the same as the gross receipts.
Gross receipts, gross receipts right now are 800,000 higher, but they're in 2 lines. So gross receipts has 2 lines. When the last person did this budget, when she projected, she put all of it in line 1 and didn't increase line 2. I think we're going to hit those projections, but I'm afraid to increase them any because they were actually inflated too much, in my opinion. It should have been divided by 2 gross receipts collection lines and it was all put into 1.
Just out of curiosity, what are the two, what differentiates?
One is our gross receipts tax that we collect, And one is what state says collects for us and then passes down, and we put them in two separate lines.
Thank you.
Any question on executive budget? Anyone need anything else? I hope you like your new chairs.
Yes.
Is that the reason we don't have an
I have a
expenditure
quick
next year?
Mr. Mayor, on that, motor vehicle registration, we get a kickback? I didn't know that, but then the state does things a little bit different. I was not the city end of it. So they give us a kickback, huh?
Yes, sir, they do. They send us money and it comes in on our RP 500 and it tells how much that is a percentage of what the state gets, and they send it to us every month that there's a vehicle that's registered.
Based on what's registered in Corrales.
Correct.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Or if we're good with the executive, we'll move to courts. I believe our judge is online.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, council.
So since Christina, do you want to speak on your budget?
I can, well, we,
Can you
Okay.
turn it up a little bit?
Hold on, we're having a hard time hearing you,
It's
Judge,
going to be on
and
the,
it's our end.
okay.
Okay.
Still sort of soft, I think.
No, it's our speakers in here. It's not you. Give us 1 second.
All right.
Yeah. Close and personal there.
Okay. Okay.
Judge Frechette, got a question for you about part-time. So what do you use that money for in terms of part-time, funding?
Yeah, we have a part-time employee now.
Oh, okay.
Christina, remember Christina broke her leg in late October. We were closed for 3 weeks because we had a single clerk. And, you know, for 2 years, we saved a great deal of money by going to a single clerk model. But it also caused us to have to be shut for 3 weeks when there was a crisis for her. So with the intention of always having a second person to be able to handle those unexpected things that will happen, we've hired a wonderful person, Jenny Breisel Rodaza. She's doing a great job. She's being trained, and that is our part-time. And Tanya did tell me that I think some of our money flow has been coming out of all the full-time line, although the part-time line is also to be used. She's going to make that adjustment. So the numbers for the last 30 days are a little funky between the part-time and the full-time, but we are going to be using the resources of the part-time budget as well. Because the new part-time clerk is working 20 hours a week.
So do we pay, benefits to the part-time employee?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so that's included in the budget here?
That is.
Thank you.
Any other?
We haven't made a lot of other significant changes, really. We've tweaked a couple of numbers in one direction or another, but minimally.
Any other questions for
Yes.
Judge Frechette?
Michelle, have you found that with the change in what the state did on collecting fines, et cetera, it's affected your budget at all?
So the state did not change the collection of fines. Collection of fines is exactly the same as it has been in the past. It is fees and costs, $29, that was eliminated back in 2023. We still have 130,000, I think, Tanya, in our corrections budget, which will continue to pay for incarcerations for a number more years, which is good. So we will be reserving that to pay for incarcerations. Incarcerations have gone up. I think they're at $125 or $135 a day. That Christina can confirm that number. And then we have the other parts are the training. So there was judicial education, which was incorporated into that number. So that's minimal, you know, at most you'll spend maybe a couple of thousand for judges to be trained, a couple, 3,000 a year. And training is mandatory for judges, so we have to cover that on our own now. There was corrections and training, and there was a third component. So as of this moment, the most expensive part of that was the corrections for people to be put in jail. So you're not going to see any difference in that right now, because like I said, I've got years worth of background number still in that budget to cover incarcerations. So
Excellent.
you won't have any other significant impact from that, because we're talking about some judicial training once a year, that sort of thing.
Mr. Shell, I have a question. Where's the line item for incarcerations?
It's called corrections, Mayor.
Not on here.
Mayor, it's in a special fund. It is pre-funded. It was funded by those fees that she used to be able to collect. It's not in this budget. It's in a fund. It's in a 200 fund. Those will come forward at the council meeting, because those are not village funds. They're village funds, but they're set by where that money comes from. So we usually don't do special funds here. But one change I am making is fund balances are going to come forward so we can see what is in there. Instead of just budgeting 20,000 for incarceration and knowing we have another 130,000, we're going to show the prior year revenue each year. That shows you that she has 130,000 in there. And next year, maybe she has 120. So we can also track it so we know when it's going to become a general fund liability to have prisoners.
So if we incarcerate anybody for DWI and they stay 4 days at BCDC or wherever, that we pay for all those?
We do, we pay out 130.
Well, actually, we're only paying some of those things. So the Sandoval County Detention Center is our detention center. The
Okay.
contract with the detention center covers our incarcerations. And those incarcerations come from not primarily DWIs, actually bench warrants. And my goal always is to try to have anybody that's in jail on a bench warrant, because DWIs will be released within 12 hours. But the designation for bench warrants is longer, depending on the nature of the warrant I've issued. So those, I try to have people back out of the jail within 24 to 48 hours to limit the amount of money that the village is spending in that category. I do not leave people in jail. I do a conditions of release hearing very rapidly, just intentionally to try to reduce that number.
So if somebody gets incarcerated for DUI, how long do they get incarcerated for? What's the time and what's the criteria for keeping them incarcerated?
So the DWI incarcerations are primarily happening out of magistrate court, because our officers are not currently citing those into municipal court. So the municipal expense for DWI is currently zero. All of the rest is just our bench warrants.
Okay, but who sets the limits for different incarcerations, whether it's DWI or any other reason?
Judge.
It's contained in the court rules in terms of how long someone can be in on a bench warrant, or how long someone can be in post until they're to be arraigned. Those are all set out in the court rules. And then the judges decide the incarceration time for all other purposes as a sentence, for instance, when a case comes closed.
Okay, thank you.
Shell, I got another question for you. So if Sandoval County fills up, do we still pay the same rate if they have to go put somebody else in another county or another facility?
Our people are never moved to another facility. That never happens.
Even if the facility is filled?
We don't have a full jail.
Well, I know, but I mean,
Our people does not happen. I've not seen it happen in 10 years.
Okay,
11 years.
I was just, what if?
Yeah. If I may, on that point, because I was going to ask the first question where the mayor went, but you get arrested for DWI, they book, you're not put in jail, but you're booked, for some time period, and then you get to come and get ROR'd. That's not considered a day or hours or anything?
No, if you are booked into the Sandoval County Detention Center and you are released within a few hours, it still counts as a 1-day incarceration.
Well, and that was a part, that I didn't know, the magistrate court part, because I was just thinking, as of late, we sure have been seeing, thank you for doing it, but we sure have been seeing a whole lot of DUIs from Albuquerque and from Rio Rancho, but you know, they're getting picked up over here. So I didn't know who gets the bill.
Okay, well, that's going to vary depending upon where the case is filed. And the case may be filed in a number of different places. There's district court, there's magistrate court. The most 98% of the cases start in Sandoval County Magistrate Court in the town of Bernalillo if the arrest is happening in Corrales. But so that's going to vary in terms of how it gets charged.
So the officers make that decision, or not necessarily?
The officers bring them to Sandoval County Detention Center because that's their designated detention center, yes.
Yes, and as far as which court to charge them in, that's our policy. DWIs are normally booked into magistrate court. There could be extenuating circumstances, like if we know that we're booking the brother of the magistrate court judge, then why jump through all the hoops for the change of venue and everything? We could just file that in municipal court, and that's why we maintain an ordinance for DUI here, even though 99.9% of the time we're not filing DUIs here, but we have that option.
Okay. And the reason I ask that question is like there seems to be a pattern where you're getting more DUIs, but they also happen to have a warrant. And so that, I mean, they're not too smart, but nonetheless, I just wanted to make sure we're not getting something else that we could necessarily get where the warrant came from. So thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to jump in and say, you know, we hadn't gotten the statistics in previous years. So now we're saying, oh, look, we're getting all these DWIs. Not necessarily, because we didn't get that information originally, right? So I don't want to, you know, have everybody say, oh, we're getting so many DWIs now, where we could have been getting the exact number or less before, but we weren't informed about it.
Yeah, and I do think there's been a slight uptick at least, and I'm not sure if it's just you know, a new recreational preference for, you know, and we can't really say the generation because you can see the ages. You know, we normally post the age and the city of residence for the suspects. You know, obviously not their names that serve no purpose, but so it spans, you know, all age groups. So it's not necessarily a generational trend or anything like that. I do think that our officers are better trained now and possibly recognizing them more than in the past. And, you know, it's get a little ahead of myself as far as our budget goes, but you notice that we haven't used as much of our training budget as we did last year. Part of the reason is that we now have specialized instructors in every discipline that's required throughout the state, including a DUI instructor, you know, dealing with the mentally ill, crisis intervention, those types of things. So I think that the training has helped as well. And and we do have some very energetic, active officers on the graveyard shift. And that probably lends to it.
Well, and Councillor Knight's point is well taken. One of the things that's creating visibility is the fact that we now have a crime awareness because of the email sends that we're doing, which is educating the public. But just in the past, you were not getting those emails. And different agencies have different percentages in terms of whether or not we're all at full staff, right? So now that the village of Corrales is back at full staff, there will be more crimes enforced, which is helpful to our community. But adjacent communities, is Rio Rancho picking up the people that are in Rio Rancho, or are their numbers down? The ebb and flow of the law enforcement personnel out on the street is what impacts how people get to a destination.
Any other court questions, Councilor Murray?
Yeah, so that bears the question, does an outside agency comes into the village, do they book into Sandoval County, or do they go back to the county where it started? Like if APD or Burnco chased somebody in the corrals and arrested them for DWI, would they go to Centerville County or would they go back to?
If the incident started in Albuquerque or Bernalillo County Council, yes, they would. It's one continuous act. So even though they were apprehended in Sandoval County, they'd be booked into Bernalillo County.
Okay, thank you.
And do we pay for that in Bernalillo County then?
They would be. Yes.
They pay, okay. Any other questions for court? Thank you.
You catch it, you clean it.
Okay, this one, we'll wait for Counselor Miera. We're going to be moving to Finance and Administration. Melanie, are you going to present this one?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of changes other than what was previously mentioned. We have under our capital equipment and machinery that includes the funds for the bathrooms over at the Gonzalez property. And then I think you mentioned, Tanya, that the money for the old church is in there as well. that
So
200
the expenses right now are only at 200,000 because we've got to do some moving of money to the fund that it was paid out of for the old church. So that will go up before the final budget for sure, probably for the preliminary budget approval. We also have in there, we received money for the gazebo that was damaged out front. We're requesting to leave that money in there for some repairs to this front area, and that was insurance money. Those are the main things that have changed. This budget does also have, before I speak out of turn, the 50,000, which is the professional services fees, which you can see are at zero. That is the on-call architect that may go to a contract with Mr. Cog. So that money is still in there.
What about attorney's fees? Is it blank here?
So attorney's fees is out of the last fund. We'll go over at 2,900. If we needed to put attorney's fees in here, this would be more like a lawsuit against the council, where we could break it out, those kind of things. But that's in the attorney fees are in 2,900 general services.
Okay. Councilor Murray?
Thank you. So we don't have any part-time positions allocated. So are we, I know we're not hoping for any, but I mean, is there a possibility that we might have some?
No, we don't have any part-time positions in admin or finance.
So if somebody leaves in a department manager position, we don't hire somebody to come in and sit in their place?
Not part-time. We do have, like when we had our finance position open, we do have contracts with our former finance director, Raina Aragon, and she came in and worked for us, but it was under a contract, she wasn't an employee of the village.
Well, are we still, is she still under contract?
She is.
Okay.
She's agreed to stay on and help train Juliana for the
And
next
that's
couple of
under
months.
where?
That's under
2,900.
the 2,900 budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then I noticed also the transportation expense. It seems like to me that with gas prices being what it is that a realistic number?
We don't have any vehicles.
Why
Right.
not?
We don't have any vehicles for admin or finance.
Why not?
We don't use them that often.
You don't
so
go anywhere?
Usually the only places we go are conferences twice a year. So if we needed to, Lori has offered to let us borrow the P&Z. Vic has offered to let us borrow a police car if we need to. So yeah, we have not had a vehicle in admin and finance in several years.
Why do we budget for it?
So if the way that it should happen, just to keep track of it financially would be, say they do take Lori's car to Ruidoso for a big conference. They would still use Lori's gas card, but they should come in and sign it. And then we would do a journal entry to pull the fuel funds out of their budget.
Well, doesn't that put Lori in a bind if she doesn't have the vehicle?
Maybe it's over a weekend. I mean, and then you have 2 vehicles? And she has 2 vehicles right now. And there are other vehicles. They could borrow one of the fire vehicles. So I hate to get rid of their fuel. And then all of a sudden, the fire chief says, why are you using my fuel money? You drove my car, but you're not using my fuel money.
Okay. All right. And then also the other thing I'm wondering about too is the workers' compensation assessment. Is that just,
Oh, I am working on that one.
okay.
That I told every council or every department head that came in, I started with this spiel. Okay, we're gonna get the workman's comp. Yes, we put it in there because yes, we pay it. I am working with Juliana to find out where it actually comes from and move it to that line item and get it out of this. I'm hoping, no promises. I'm hoping to have that moved for at least by the final budget.
That goes through all departments.
It's in there in all departments, and I don't think I missed any department head saying, we used to pull it out of there. I think when we went to Tyler, it now comes, but I'm trying to backtrack how it comes out of, because I also am not sure it's not pulling wrong through Tyler. So I'm doing some deep dives with Juliana.
Thank you.
Any other questions for finance and admin?
Or you could buy him a car. Right? Yeah.
Sure.
Actually,
I always ask for extra.
Actually, we did, one of the requests on the ICIP was vehicles. And that was with the idea of if admin decides we need a vehicle, asking for some capital outlay funds to get a peppy little car like planning and zoning has with their little, what is it, a Ford Escape that you guys got? EcoSport.
Well,
Yeah.
but I mean, if so let's FYI, for Lori's department, if she loans out a car and then we have the enforcement officer doing some work as well, then that kind of leaves her department without anything.
They actually have 3 vehicles because code enforcement has their truck that is pretty much just code enforcement because it says code enforcement on the side. And then they have the little Ford EcoSport, and then Vic transferred an old police car to them. So they actually have 3.
How many more vehicles are we going to find out about here? Seem to be growing.
Yep. There's one hiding under a rock.
We need 5 new fire trucks.
We'll work on that.
And we don't
Okay.
want to take it out of ICIP because they gotta last at least 10 years and nothing lasts 10 years. It's gotta last as long
I
as the
think
branch-
they've actually dropped it to 5 now, 3 to 5 on vehicles.
Did they used to?
I think so. I'll have to look that up and I'll get that
Yeah.
to you guys.
Had to last at least as long as a bridge, but other than that, they wouldn't take it. But okay, that's nice to know.
Any other comments? Tanya, moving on.
So moving on will be Parks and Recreation. Lynn, you want us to pass this mic? Or you want to steal that one?
So this budget this year kind of, it went down a little bit because we don't have as many projects happening. So this is just pretty much an operational budget. So does anyone have any questions?
Do you have one? Oh, I'll let Bill go first.
Yeah, just a quick one. Your full-time positions went up about 26,000. And
I think that includes people coming off of probationary periods. Traditionally, we give a 3% raise when somebody comes off a probationary period, and then the COLA. So that would account for his increases.
so it's not additional positions?
No.
Okay.
And I think one of the additional positions when I was going through may have been under budgeted when they did their forms previously.
Good. Thank you.
And Len, do you want to present your wish list items to the council of things you'd like to see if we have the money?
That aren't on here?
They don't have them, but
As long as it's not a new heater for the pool.
Well, okay, but there is a new heater. So the old building that we have, which is the pool building, that doesn't have a heater. Well, it does have a heater, but the heater this year, we really had to work with it to make it work for this winter. Now, luckily we didn't have a winter that was terrible and I could bring a little something from home to heat up the office, but the bathrooms do need to be, cause those are cold. So we are looking to get a heater and air conditioner. That was around 47,000, I believe.
So I have you with, well, the one I had was 38, but it could be 50. And then 50,000 for the tennis court and 236 for the tennis
Yeah.
court, and then the basketball court's 50.
Okay, so the tennis courts currently, they have cracks in them there's one about this thick.
Eat up the ball.
Luckily that's in the middle of the court. They are creeping into the courts though, so to do that was actually pretty expensive because that's almost gonna need to be redone. And then the basketball courts is only around the 50,000 because they do have cracks. That's where pickleball, we started the pickleball in this town, and since no one's out there playing. If you're really trying to play, kids with their parents will go out there and use it, but now that we've kind of made the indoor courts what they are, no one would rather be outside. But both of those we would, and I did contact a company to see if because we do have a crack sealer now, that wouldn't work. Just because the crack
Too
would be
big,
big,
yeah.
yeah.
I have a question.
Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. So, do you only have your offices in the old building? You don't have any offices in the new gym?
No, so we have, so me and my maintenance worker, our offices are located in the pool building. And then as far as the rest of my staff, their offices are out where we used to have that concession stand area out in front of the old gym. So that there's 3 people in there, there's 2 in the pool building. So, but in the pool during the summer, I mean, we're not, between us 2, we're out running around on all of our properties. So that doesn't really bug that we have a bunch of lifeguards in there.
But you have never had heat in there?
No, we've had heat. It's just that heater's 29 years old. And I mean,
Okay.
it's had it. I mean,
My-
the people that did repair it, they said it's not safe to use again. So, I mean, we are lucky now that we put the lobby door or put the lobby wall up. I mean, it is cooler in our office because we're getting, with our doors open, we are getting air conditioner from the old
Big
gym.
gym.
And
Oh,
so, but I mean, we are going to need something redone on that. And I did get prices already. I got 3 quotes right now, but I mean, I just didn't have the money to do it this fiscal year.
okay.
Counselor Waldman?
Thank you, Mayor. The new gym's been open a couple of years. Have you discovered anything that's a problem with the construction or what you needed and not there, or you anticipate you might need?
Well,
Wish list kind of a thing.
Well, so when we put it in, volleyball's never been, a big priority here, but we really should have put in 3 volleyball courts versus just the 1, because we could have went the other way with them. But volleyball's also, we have it open right now. We don't have anyone signed up for it. So that's not the pickleball is really what's going crazy. Now, the only other thing is they put in a grinder pump and for the sewer for there, and then that goes into my tanks for the old sewer that we used to have. And those, we have 2 pumps on that. For 2 weeks, we just opened up again this week because those both burnt out. What it was is the floats on them. So the bottom floats you're on, this floats off, and then you got your alarm. The alarm did go off, and so I called the company right away, but they were pretty busy, so they didn't come out. So what ended up happening is the on float, when the off went off, it caught the on float up. So those just kept running and running. So it burned out both of those. I don't know what I'm paying to have that fixed. It is fixed now, but so we never had a problem with our other septic system we've had, and we put that in, I think it was 2009, and we haven't had one issue with that. So, I mean, that's the one thing I learned a lot with grinder pumps the last 2 weeks.
And one last thing, and not to get a dispute with the party to the left of you, but the big hole you're digging now for the line to go from the rec center to the boss gate, is that going to affect your water supply at all, or where's the water coming from for that?
Here.
Mayor, Counselor, the water supply comes from the well next to the tank in the back of the rec center. That well is 400 gallons a minute. That fills that tank. That tank is then used for irrigation of the front fields only,
Right.
and for the fire suppression.
And for fire suppression?
It's a
Yeah,
non-domestic.
as needed,
What's that?
as needed.
As needed. Yeah.
Okay.
So the design of the tank originally, when Lynn and I met and we got this tank from Intel, was, twofold: for irrigation for the front fields and for fire suppression. And since Lynn uses it to irrigate, the water isn't stagnant. It's constantly circulating. And with that connection, with that big hole, as you put it, that's going to supply the water line that we've been working really hard on, the Andrews, to give us bi-directional supply, not only from the north, but from the south, for that extra volume.
Great. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Mira?
If I may depart from the normal, but just gonna ask you, remember we were having discussions about when the new place opened up, are we in still a good position to have early voting based on the facilities? And we'll be having a new person coming in when they get elected, but are we still okay with that? We don't have to prepare to not have any early voting because we can't keep the machines in there?
Oh, no, we're fine. Yeah, they came out and did an assessment of our facilities before the general election last year. And there were just a few minor things. They needed us to repaint the handicap parking on the sidewalks and, but no, we're fine. And what, security, we're fine.
Okay.
And all the early voting takes place at the community center. And Steve and his crew actually installed a new keypad for us. So instead of having keys that we have to collect, everybody has a code. And I've got an app on my phone. Mandy has access to the app as well. We just disable all of those key codes so that the election staff is the only one that has an active
That's good.
code. So yeah, so it's actually going to be much better this election season because we don't have to worry that somebody made an illegal copy of our key and actually has it. So we know for sure that nobody is getting in there but election staff. And plus we get a notification on here. Every single time somebody uses that keypad, I get a notification. So if I'm at home on a Sunday afternoon and I'm not expecting anybody to be in there and I see the phone flash and I'm like, who's in there? And I can see, oh, it was whoever, and then I can check the list and say, oh yes, this group did reserve the community center for this time, so we're good.
Thank you.
Counselor Murray?
Thank you. So should we increase the building maintenance fees or budget to account for that you need a new heater and air conditioning in the offices, or is this capital outlay?
It's going to be, no, it's going to, if you want to increase anything, the resurfacing of some of the basketball court, I really need to look at the original cost to tell you if it's maintenance. But redoing of the tennis court and a new heater are not going to be maintenance, they're capital. So we would
Why
increase.
wouldn't they be maintenance? Because if it's already.
Because well, you can go either way. It's 29 years old. But I guarantee this is going to be a more energy. If I was going apples to apples, and we can't probably buy the same heater, they're going to be more energy efficient. They go into capital because they increase the capital and the longevity of his building. The tennis court, if it's just the tennis court, I've been told, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to have to be ripped out and redone.
How about basketball too?
Basketball, he said resurface, correct? That one, if the maintenance is less than the original cost with inflation put in, then it could be maintenance or capital. But if you put it in maintenance and it's capital, we're going to move it to capital. If we determine it's maintenance, we're going to move it from capital to maintenance. Wherever the money is, doesn't mean that's where it lands. It's going to be based on the accounting codes where we need to spend it from.
Yeah, I actually looked at also the solar panels for maybe the roof of the new gym. Have we thought about that in terms of a wish list?
That is a Lynn question and an administrator. And I know Chief's looking at, yeah, that face, Chief likes solar.
I mean, we have solar there and I don't even know what it does for us.
Yeah, well, and the issue with those solar panels that we have, once the lease agreement is up, we don't own those solar panels. They go back to the person who put them in.
I know, Bill. I think
So we need to find, if we do solar, we need to find a much better way of doing it than the way we've done it in the past.
so that would be also a capital expense that we go to the legislature and say, hey, we're going to do solar for.
Yeah, and we do have solar panels on our ICIP list. So if that's something that you wanted to put in for capital outlay this coming year, we certainly could. But there's also other special grants specifically for solar projects. And if that's a priority of the council that you want us to look into, we can look into that over
Well,
the
it
next year.
seems like that, the intent with the original one was to make the village neutral in terms of energy usage. So, I mean, is that still something that we ought to pursue?
I mean, we still pay P&M on every single building that we have solar panels on. So I don't know how efficient they're really making us, and maybe it's time to look at some better options because some of those solar panels are older. But yeah, sometimes when I'm signing checks for those things, we're paying, a couple $100 towards the solar company and then a couple $100 to P&M. So yeah.
So how much do we totally pay in utilities? I mean, is that,
I think that's probably reflected in each individual budget, but I think other things are included in those utilities.
Want to break down just on electric bills for each department? Some of them are paid out of the department, some go into 2,900. But we can break that down because we do pay, as Juliana knows, because she pays them, we pay both P&M and the solar company.
it seems like to me that if we're going to be, energy neutral or have to be on the green side according to the governor, that's her goal. Yeah, at one point, does it become more efficient or more cost effective to go solar versus paying P&M?
I think Chief wants to speak, because this was
That's-
a pet project years ago.
That's a long-term project. I mean, you're gonna pay up front pretty high for solar. And
Yeah, but your return on investment.
right, and the return on investment, how many years you have to go to get return on investment that pays for that initial investment
Exactly.
is
So,
pretty high.
Mayor,
Chief.
councilors, so thank you. I originally, years ago, I started this project off. I wanted PV systems on my fire station to offset my overall costs out of my special funds so I could purchase fire trucks and training and equipment. It expanded to looking at all village facilities, which we lost the opportunity to get some of the federal money to kind of purchase for the fire stations. With that, then we went into the option of lease roof space. Well, we're getting to that point where I have been looking into the fire stations and the buyout and the contracts, but they've actually sold. So the original vendor that put the solar system, then it's like, a trade market. So then they sell to a highest bidder. So the last contact I had, our buyout, I think, was close to 5 years. So, and the projection of the equipment that's on top of the fire stations was estimated for like 20 years. So the contract's timed for the equipment. So we're getting to that point where we need to make a decision if we're going to keep it neutral and how we're going to take ownership of some of these PV systems that we went into negotiations on a lease space. So you're right, as far as the discussion, this is something that I've been working with the administration, trying to see if we want to buy out of the contract or let it expire. And then the big question is, do we own what's on the roofs of some of our spaces? And what's the longevity of that? How many more years can we get out of that to buy us time for full replacement? So I don't know if that helps, but it's something that us managers have been discussing. It's a little more complicated than that, but it's definitely in our sights on trying to make the right investment for the future of Corrales, because we're starting to add, like, for example, this fire substation at Loma Larga. I'm trying to incorporate the design so I can get a full PV system that the village of Corrales owns, that we benefit from that system and not share it with somebody.
do you have an idea of how much the buyout will cost us?
That the buyout a couple of years ago, I don't know, it was
Is it
10,
Pretty high.
15,000 or something like that for the buyout. But that only buys us for a few years. And I didn't think that was cost effective for me to try to utilize like my special funds to buy that out, when I wanted to focus on full replacement, full ownership, and maybe look at grants or capital outlay.
Well, I think that we ought to set that as a priority somehow, to take a look at that and how it most cost-effective way of implementing it.
Okay.
For the whole,
I'd like to.
all of our buildings, not just for fire, but for all of our buildings. Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment on tennis courts. I played a lot of tennis in a previous life, and tennis courts are usually a fairly low users for a court. And even if we have two tennis courts, the number of people using it is going to be relatively low relative to, say, pickleball now. And that $250,000 is a lot for, I think, a relatively small number of people. So we ought to think about that as far as, a capital budget of $250,000 for a relatively small number of users. I mean, I said I played a lot of tennis, and you get 2 or 4 people using a court at most, for several hours a day. So I think tennis courts are sort of a little thing in the past. I mean, pickleball courts are a lot more popular now,
Yeah.
but it's a relatively low utilization, and $250,000 is a lot of bucks. That's a comment I have on tennis courts. Councilor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I just need to put it in my own words so I can make sure I understand about the solar panels. So we rent those or lease those? Are we getting any benefit as far as if we're still paying P&M? What's the benefit?
So, Councilor Mayor, my understanding is some of the properties, some of our buildings, we leased our roof space for the solar panels, which went out to,
So we're getting money in from.
So
We
we're,
need
we're,
that.
we're not 100%. They get a tax break, my understanding, whoever invested in the solar to go on, let's say just the fire station, the main fire station. So it went out for like a lease contract. The Village of Krause allowed them to put it on top of our building. Investors on that got either tax breaks or they get a percentage of breaks from P&M credits or whatever they call them. But we still pay to that investor, and then we pay a P&M. So it's almost like we still have a utility bill. It's just split in half. Does that kind of make sense?
Well.
And I don't have the money breakdown and how much we really benefit from that.
I'm sorry?
I don't have a breakdown of how much we really benefit. So there is a benefit for Corellis. It's not 100% for us. If we own the solar, then it would be between P&M and getting credits. And then we would have, based on use and how much the PV system is designed for the system, if we're putting back in, what our utility bill would be. So there'd be a benefit for us.
I have a question about this. Should we just, study this and come up with a report as far as solar lease, buy, cost effectiveness, time? I mean, we can talk for 30 more minutes on this, but we have,
Oh, yeah. And
8 more.
we've spent months going through our lease contracts with solar and talking to our attorneys. And I mean, it's a big maze of mess.
But I think, maybe we can not keep this going because I said we can talk a long time, but Councilor
Yeah,
Wilman.
just a quick question. We have a similar situation because of the animal rescue group. So we have a lease on our solar and then we pay P&M if there's a bill. But you have a third party involved. Could you explain? I remember when that happened. It was Council Giuliani arranged for this with an Oregon company to come in and get the tax breaks and put the solar panels on the roof. So we're still tied to that original purchase of the equipment for that?
Do you?
So my understanding is yes. So we first actually got a loan. The first thing that happened is we got Senator Bingham in there or Udall.
Bingham.
One of them came in and we got a point, I think it was a 0.5% loan.
It was Senator Bingham. I was here for that signing and then we rejected that.
And then something happened and it got rejected and we got companies to come in. So, and I'll definitely research this further, but my understanding is when we go over what our PV makes, we owe them money for the amount, a percentage of money because they're not making anything off of it. And Juliana's seen if she can find some numbers for you. And then if we go way over, then we also owe a piece to P&M. So going back and looking at them, I believe we're still paying less. But if we owned it all, then we would only be paying P&M.
Right.
That is kind of where, and I mean, Chief was one of the first people to go to LED light bulbs years and years ago. Intel gave us a grant. So we do ask Village Hall. They're now confused because I turn the lights off as I walk through rooms that aren't being occupied. He beat it into my brain. But I have no problem coming back and pulling with Juliana's help since she right now pays all those and getting you some hard numbers on those.
Good. Thank you.
And also what the termination date is on the agreement with this Oregon company.
Well, I think
Because
there's three
P&M will always
companies,
be there.
correct?
I think there's
Three
three.
companies, I believe.
Because we have one for the rec center, one for the village hall area, and then one for fire. And I
Oh,
think it's
three separate.
three separate
Okay.
companies.
Yeah.
And I do know the one at the rec center, that's the one that's the biggest mess. But even when that contract is up, we will not own those solar panels. They will come and take them.
Okay.
And there's
And
still a
that's the
number of
parking
years.
thing structure.
Yeah, the
isn't it?
parking, the ones on the parking structure audit. But to go back to the budget requests, Counselor, does any council want to see what the budget would look like putting some of these wish list items in the budget?
What would you like me to add into for Parks and Rec? Do you want the heater and the resurfacing of the basketball/pickleball court?
Yeah.
Boys, we gotta take care of them.
Well,
I am also going to look at the end of the year as we get close to see if there's enough to do it. Because the sooner you do it, the less likely we're to hit some inflation. But it is a big expense. So we won't know until probably after our May 15th PO deadline, kind of like we do it with the servers. So the heater in the budget, this one working?
Yeah.
You just
yeah,
have to be really close to it.
I feel like I'm eating it.
okay.
The heater, what about, the pickleball or the, tennis or the well, it's the basketball court / pickleball court though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just basketball.
I think those two would be, I'd be happy with that.
Do what?
The heater and the pickleball courts. Is
Yeah,
that-
I'm okay with that too. I was just
Wait,
looking
they're-
at the mayor because
So-
pickle does not assume the tennis court. It just.
Right. No, that would be the basketball court, which is also striped for
Ball.
pickleball.
As long as they're separated, yeah.
Okay.
Fine with me.
Good to you.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, no, you don't want heater?
No, we need that heater. The heater is really.
I told him he should just work harder.
You've got air. you've
Oh,
got air-
so let me ask one last
It's
question.
gonna have an air conditioner as well.
One last question. Have we moved the doors forward so that the outdoor, I mean, that the old gym is inside now? We have done that?
Yes.
Okay,
So that's considered our lobby now.
okay,
And it came out really, if you do need to come and see it because it's beautiful.
okay,
It looks really nice if you haven't been over there to see it.
okay. Thank you.
Tanya, moving along.
Okay, so we're gonna go to, Melanie will do senior center, but it's really easy. It's flat,
Yeah.
but questions.
Yeah, there's no changes to the budget for the senior center, so.
I had a
Councilor Waldman?
question about the telephones, the $3,700 for telephones. Does that also include internet and everything else?
Yes.
I mean, it
Yeah,
does.
yeah, because our phones are voice over internet phones, so it comes with the internet, so
It
yes.
seems like an awful lot of money.
Yeah, and we have fiber here at Village Hall, so it's a little bit more than a dial-up or DSL connection would be.
And $6,500 for utilities. There's no solar there.
I'm not sure. I thought do we have solar panels on the senior center? Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought we did.
So.
But
Breaks down to.
Juliana just told me that the
$500.
fiber runs between $1,300 and $1,500 a month for this complex, and then it gets broken up into departments. She just pays for it all. Out of 29.
So,
See what they pay.
the $6,500 for utilities, which is over $500 a month for that one building.
The utilities for 1610. I'm gonna pull them. I actually printed them all out unless Melanie beats me to them.
Well, let's see, we have
Uh,
gas, electric, the solar, gas, electric, solar, P and M,
Wastewater.
wastewater. Yeah, wastewater is 134 a month. P and M averages between like 68 and oh, we have one here for almost 300. So I think it just kind of depends on how much they're running the air conditioner.
Okay. It's not a huge budget to begin with. I was just
Yeah.
curious.
And Sandoval County runs the programs, right, at senior center. Is the telephones, are they, telephone use not considered,
No.
used by Sandoval County?
No, that's, we pay for it because it's our building. So we pay for those types of things
That's
for
part
it.
of it,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Any other questions on senior center? Good. Tanya, moving on.
Okay, Miriam.
Also, it's basically the same budget as last year. As usual, biggest expenses is the maintenance contracts, and that is mostly for computer maintenance. So we have 7 public computers, 7 staff computers. Same thing with supplies. My biggest expense there is always toner for the printers.
Counselor Knight and then Counselor
Mayor,
Murray.
I
Yeah.
just want to know what's the contract with that fixes your IT stuff.
That's Systems MD, and it's a village-wide contract.
Okay.
And they have a state or no, CES contract, sorry. And that's how we obtained their services was through E CES.
Counselor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So in lieu of the budget we have here, where are we standing with the expansion of the library? in terms of the funding, in terms of design and moving forward?
Well, at this point, that's money coming from Focal. So it's not part of this budget. And nothing is really definite with that yet. Focal is still sitting on the funds for now, but we were talking about building something in the Gonzalez property that would be primarily for storing books.
We did find out, because of the Salsa Park project, that La Entrada Park was originally the same type of grant that we received for Salsa Park. So technically, any work we do in the park, any expansion of the library has to have their approval because they still are, it's still considered kind of under their purview as a park.
Meaning National Park Service?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that'll be the same with Salsa Park. So anything we do now in perpetuity, we love that word in government, in perpetuity. We have to get their approval for any changes. So it's something that we just discovered that La Entrada Park is also under that. So if we want to do anything for the library, moving to the Gonzalez property is probably our best bet because then it doesn't fall under the purview of that.
So we do Councilor Vieira's the big idea.
Yes. Yeah, big master plan.
We should move on that because it's going to take a long time for approval from National Park Service.
Yeah. So just something to consider that, if we wanted to do a library annex building, putting it in La Entrada Park would involve a lot more steps than doing it on the Gonzalez property.
Marion, the money raised by Focal seems to be relatively static. Are they still, I think it's at 90,000 or so, are they still collecting or?
Well, they're still having jewelry sales and book sales, so yeah, continue to make money.
And that goes into that fund for the expansion?
A lot of it does. Now, they also support our summer reading program. All of our library programs are paid for by that. So
That's great.
Use any public money.
That's great. That's terrific. Good. Thank you.
They provide a lot of prizes for your library events.
And Administrator Romero, can you make a note? I need to order that sign.
Yes.
We need to put a sign up about the National Park Service, the funding for that park.
Any other questions for library? Moving along, Tanya?
Planning and zoning.
Thank you, councilors, mayor, Administrator Romero. You can see as per normal, my budget is pretty flat. I'm just seeing a slight increase that I'm going to say is that overage has to do with salary fees, healthcare related items. Otherwise, I'm pretty flat. The spring conferences haven't hit yet, but we're in good shape for those. No changes really.
Councilor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. So professional services, is the legal services paid for out of part of this?
No, that all our legal services get paid for out of the 2,900 budget.
So there's no other professional services required?
So I think professional services, this pays for, it says driveway site and distance. Oh, this was the Lee Engineering. We had a complaint about a sign along Corrales Road on a business, and we wanted an engineer to go in and evaluate that. So we spent some money from the professional services line to have that
So
done.
when we employ the village engineer, that comes out of a different fund rather than out of P and Z?
I think he's 2,900 as well. Yeah.
Okay. And then also capital equipment, photocopiers, scanners, they don't need anything in terms of that. I mean, last 24-25, there was $30,000. Nothing for the last year or this year. And again, nothing for 27. So
We got cars, we have a plotter, we have a good copier. I don't want to jinx myself, but we're in pretty good shape.
well, I mean, computers are all up to date.
We just got Cadence and computer, hers finally bit the dust. So this year there was money moved into non-capital furniture, fixtures and equipment. So we did a little finagling. One thing that helped was I don't know, it seems like some things came up this year, but I was able to cover them. The village has to do what's called a stormwater management plan. That's underway right now. That should come out of this fiscal. So we're doing fine with what we have.
that we don't pay for cloud services or anything like that.
No, that's all part of our managed services contract with Systems MD that gets paid for out of the 2,900 budget.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And then Lori, did you want to mention your request item, your wish list item?
Well, yeah, it's funny though, things come up is what happens. And I don't know that they're going to come up. Like we just had something I've been working on for a year and a half with Public Works, and I was able to cover it. And that was to get a couple of village easements for some stormwater projects. But I didn't know it was going to come out of this fiscal, but it already will. So it's hard for me to anticipate.
It's
I
to
know
cover
there'll be
the
something.
surveys for that, for those easements. So we have to get a survey on those easements. Yeah.
Tanya just pointed something out,
Yeah.
Scanning project. We have a lot of paper over there. My main concern is I want it to be fully searchable. So I'm a little anxious about that, but we do have a lot of paper over at Planning and Zoning.
So yeah, I think the idea was, depending on how things go with the village scanning project, if everybody's happy with that, phase 2, we would like to put some money towards P&Z to go in and scan all of their files. They have a storage area in the kind of attic space of their building where they have a lot of stuff. And the company that is doing our scanning, the Newbie Group, they can do the big plats and they can scan all those in. So
And if I don't speak out of turn, let's say we don't like what the Newbie Group did, we could also contract with a temporary agency because you have a scanner where we could set the person up to come in so many hours a week, where Lori is there to say, no, I want this labeled Salsi subdivision plot. So she has a little more control on how to search it to make it a searchable database. So I think there's a couple ways, and I think it would work out probably about the same amount of money. I think the staff member would be, or the temp employee or contract employee would be less, but it may be harder just because Lori would be having to train and do some teaching. So,
yeah.
But I estimated, I think Newbie Group for the village is 260,000. I wrote down a wish list of 100,000 to get it started. That was just a wish list, is not in the budget. It was to remind me that because we did budget hearings back in beginning of March.
Yeah.
I had a question about easements. You mentioned, does it go under your budget, Lori, to buy the easement or engineering for those easements, or does it go somewhere else?
Typically not. In this case, we are just having a surveyor draw up the easements. The property remains with the private property owner, but it gives our Public Works Department the right to go in and do some things. And in the future, if it was big enough, we could add it to ICIP or ask for other funding, and we will already have some skin in the game because we will have already paid to obtain the easement.
Was the surveyor's cost, is that in your budget or is that in another?
It is for this one. I had sufficient funds.
Okay. Councilor Bowman?
Melanie, are there legal restrictions on destruction of documents for P&Z as there are?
Yeah, the council, you guys adopted a new records retention schedule not too long ago, and that covers every department in the village. So, yeah.
I will point out that since I started here end of 2017, I do scan everything. So the things that need to be scanned are prior to that.
Councilor Murray?
Thank you. So are these items that are not up at the clerk's office? These are items that are only particular to the village and not to send it up to the county clerk?
Well, a little bit of both. I mean, the clerk is going to have the plats, but I have found when looking for parent plats that sometimes they are lacking, and I actually have things they don't have. Other documents, just such as letters and so forth, like I said, I do scan those. So
the easement that you were talking about, was that the one that the DOT was talking about straightening that curve out, or is that something else?
No, this is something else, and they don't exist yet. They're underway right now. These are for some stormwater easements off of Valle Vista.
I guess the other question I have is, how are we going with the small parcel down on the south end? Or
It's ours.
okay,
Yeah. In fact, Lori took all of the documents up and filed them at the county forest a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's ours. And Fire and Public Works are working on a schedule to get that cleaned up.
So the tractor wash would go in as well?
Hmm?
The the tractor, car wash would go in?
It could, it could, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? P and Z?
Do we want to look at adding any amount to scanning project to this budget?
How much would you think?
See 1,000?
100,000.
I put 100,000. I
Yeah.
mean, that's up to you. We can put it in at 100,000 and we can come back because, I mean, we've got Lynn, we've still got to get through everyone else's wish lists. But it never hurts to add whatever amount you want and then we can go through and peel it down or push it up. Right now, revenues over, and we have some ideas for that too. Revenues over expenses. We have 190,000 already sitting not budgeted for this year.
Well, it seems to me that this is something that if we had a fire, it would be a detrimental loss. So we need to probably get this done in a hurry. So I would say put 100,000 in. Counselor, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that Lori saves may be able to be destruction, but she's kind of like me. If it's good history, keep it.
well, there was a book that put together for the far northwest sector. I don't know where that happened to that, but that was a not Bob Bell, but anyway, it was a good book because it was heavily documented about that whole area when we put that committee together. So I'm hopefully that maybe it's still around somewhere.
Counselor, come over sometime and I'll show you what I was able to find over the last 8 years. That might be one of the things. It had some odds and ends in it. We'll put it that
Well,
way.
let's put it this way. It was back in 2005 or somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes way back, but it was part of the far northwest sector development.
If we had it, it's with the newbie group being scanned now because it would have been in that the little tiny office in Village Hall, and they took all of the plans and documents and any sort of surveys, studies, and some of those go back to the 90s that we found. So if we have a copy, it's there and it's being scanned in right now.
And you could spend that 100,000 this year?
It would be next fiscal year.
Well, next year, but
Yeah.
you could spend it all.
While newbies charging just for Village Hall, I think we're at 266,000.
Yeah, but they could come in and give us a quote, and then what we could do is then weigh that against bringing in, as Tanya suggested, bringing in a part-time employee or a contract employee to do the scanning, because Lori's plotter scanner will scan those big documents as well. We would probably just need to purchase another computer so that they're not taking one of the staff's computers over there. But
Right, and
we have options.
you guys maybe really love how we can search a newbie file, and they might take direction. I would just hate for it just to have Sagebrush subdivision. Do you how many parts of Sagebrush? There's so many parts. That's why I picked Sagebrush. It's just huge on the part.
Yeah. Part of the newbie project is coming up with a naming convention that can be used going forward for all documents at Village Hall, because right now, you just kind of name it whatever you think it is. And, sometimes you have to get in the mindset of, okay, this was the clerk 4 clerks ago. What would they have called this? And then that's what you have to search for. So you have to get a little creative with your searches sometimes. But if we had a naming convention, you would know, okay, it's always going to be name of the property, date, and something else, or whatever we decide.
Are there precedents for that? I know National Library of Medicine has a big, thick,
Yeah, they
nomenclature book.
Yeah, they have recommendations for us. We just haven't gotten to that part of the project yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have recommendations for us. And then if we don't like their recommendation, we can create our own. And then they'll follow that as they name the documents as they scan them.
So with $100,000 and you decide whether you're going to use the newbie or get the person to scan, correct?
I think that works best for Lori and Melanie
Yeah.
or Administrator Romero. That way, newbie can come back and say, all of your stuff upstairs is 400,000, and Lori could look at it and say, well, it takes me this long to scan it. And there are some we've used contract workers like through CES before. And if we don't do a part-time, then we don't have to go through the para deferrals. We don't have to pay healthcare. And we have some control over them, and that she may really like to do it that way, because I know Lori really wants to be able to find these documents easily. I mean, when I get a big document in, she's like, Tanya, I need a copy. And she does the same thing. So we just go see Lori.
Yeah, and that actually might be a better route for P and Z too, because with Newbie, they come and take all the documents and then they have them. And we already had one incident where we needed a document. They had it for me within 24 hours. However, having the documents stay with Lori and have somebody scan them there might be better, just because her documents, I think, get used a lot more than a lot of the documents at Village Hall did.
Does that mean we need to increase the part-time budget as well, or?
No, we would just put that $100,000 into a line item, and then if we decide it's going to be newbie group, either way, it would probably be contractual services.
Any more questions for PNC? Yes.
So after you scan, then those documents would go over to like the vault over by the old bank or whatever.
I don't know what Lori wants to do with them.
Well, okay.
Answer just-
The former, you all probably remember Cindy Tidwell. She and I are alike in that when you see a historical document and you have that in your hand, the thought of shredding it or getting rid of it is very difficult. But of course, the whole point of this is to not have so many documents. I think that the job really would just be distinguishing between, okay, this is now digital, we're good, we have it, versus what I'm holding is actually historical and we should keep it anyway.
Right, and digital document can be stored in different places too, so it gives a robustness that you really don't need to have a piece of paper.
Correct, except for I know I went and got, I don't remember what the plat was for. I needed something for somewhere, something one of the projects we're doing. And it was the old clear ones, and it did not scan well. But they had already gotten rid of the clear, was it vellum? Or vellum or whatever it was. So since they didn't have that, it was really hard to see that plat. So those maybe she may look at those scans of those really old, they're beautiful documents and say, they just don't scan well. We should at least say, yes, we have a scanned and we have a hard copy.
Do we have microfiche, any of that?
The only place I know that's still using microfiche is Sandoval County, some of their very old records at district court. My divorce papers are in that, and they made me search my own.
And maybe we could do a combination if we have documents like that, because the newbie group does specialize in hard to scan documents. They have special scanning techniques for like the onion skin paper that we have some of our original minutes on and stuff like that. So it could be a combination of things too. So
Yeah, we'll need that. We do have some plats that would not make it through the scanner alive.
yeah.
Any other PNZ questions? Done, moving on.
Moving on to Chief Manager Kappa and the police department.
Good afternoon, everyone. And for ours, it's relatively flat. The increase in the full-time positions is essentially the same as Lynn's, where it's the projected COLA and people coming off probation and getting their roughly 3% increases. We are holding steady at the same amount of a lot of positions, which is 17 sworn, including myself, and one civilian employee who is Charlotte, our police clerk. And come May 6th, we will be at 16 out of 17 positions filled with just the one vacancy. So very thankful for that. And the officer who's coming back on 6 is a rehire who left last fall. And the grass was greener, but it took a lot longer to mow it and fertilize it and water it. So it's a trade-off, but we have to figure these things out for ourselves, myself included, including the officer return, and that makes 4 of us out of the current 16 who are rehires, who left and came back. So the part-time position is our perpetually vacant crossing guard. That's $6,000. And so I'm sure everyone's aware that the officers have been covering in both the morning and afternoons, and with the staffing that we have, it's manageable. Once the old part of the school is shut down, we intend to stop providing that service. I mean, the school sent out a notice this past school year for parents not to use that crosswalk anyway, for everybody to go down Target. And strangely enough, people don't listen. It was a shock to the officers, but so if they're available, they go out there and help. But once that part of the school is shut down, there's no reason for that. Yes, Councilor Murray?
Well, it seems like with the PAR project that ends right there at that crosswalk. And I think that we need to keep that crosswalk either for the PAR project or somebody, you know, to get across the road at least. And that's one established crosswalk that we have. We don't want to give it up.
I don't want to get rid of the crosswalk, but I don't think we need a crossing guard for the school.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
I probably would agree with
Yeah.
that, but I'm just reluctant not to give up any crosswalks.
No, because they'll come in and sweep all of them out, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I say leave the crosswalk too, but not a crossing guard.
So the other question I have is maintenance and building structure funds. Does that come out of the village general fund, or is it the chief responsible for some of that?
Yeah, it's under 2,900, the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess in terms of replacement equipment, you got sufficient funds for covering that, like with cameras, lapel cameras?
Yes, sir. We've been really fortunate to have the legislative funding in the last couple of years, and we were just granted an additional 200,000 that we just finished up the survey questionnaire on. So hopefully that's just about finalized. We just replaced all of the department's mobile data computers that the officers use out in the field. That was a significant expense, but again, that was state funding was used for that. And then the same with the vehicles, and that kind of goes into you probably noticed that we used not very much of our vehicle maintenance budget, and that's because we've been fortunate to have mostly new cars out there, but it's not always going to be like that. That's why I just assume leave the 30,000 intact if that's possible. And then I don't know if you had any more questions.
Well, the other one would be that your radios are now synced up to the new Sandoval County Emergency Services.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so they provided the initial batch of radios, and then we're going to be responsible to purchase the new ones coming in. When we do replace a car, we normally pull the radio unless it's completely outdated and have that installed in the new vehicle. But once it's reached the end of its useful life, then we'll look at making that part of the upfitting cost for a new police vehicle.
Okay, and all the radios are already interagency now we can intercommunicate with Burnco, Sandoval County.
Yes, sir.
And also, Counselor, I do believe the municipal league pays for all of the body cameras for our officers. Is that right, Chief?
They do reimburse, however, not if we already use state funds to buy them. So, yeah, that's the last batch that we got, as well as the cloud storage comes with it, the auto purge. We comply with the state law and retain the videos for 120 days unless they need to be saved separately as evidence of a crime. So after the 120 days, we have it set up with our vendor to where there's an auto purge process, which makes it a lot simpler.
So if there's an IPRA request, it exceeds the 120 days, you're not going to see it.
No, unless there was a reason to hold it for evidence. And there's really no reason to go beyond that. If it was that important, I'd say they should have requested it prior to formal.
Is that part of the retention?
It is.
Yeah. Councilor Wilderman, did
Just a very quick question. It's a bit off topic, but when you mentioned about the old building closing, do you have an idea of when that might be?
I was told next spring, but I don't know
about a year
for
from
sure.
now?
Yeah, 5 springs ago, I was told next spring, but and then just to hit on real quick on the overtime, I'm sure nobody noticed that, we appear to be double our budget at this point in the fiscal year. That's not accurate. Last year's expenditure is probably closer to what we spent this year, but there's some kind of a glitch. And I've discussed this with Tanya and the previous finance directors, and I don't want to, slam Juliana just coming in the door. She has other things to do. But it's a matter of just reconciling that. We haven't spent that much. It was brought to my attention in November that officers' salaries, they were being paid the correct rate, but it was for unknown reasons being pulled from the overtime line item versus the full-time position line item. It's not as bad as it looks, and if it was, then yes, I'd be asking for more than 15,000 for this coming fiscal year to cover the overtime expenses. When we do, we have plenty of special events around the village. We have, some private companies will sign an overtime agreement to have off-duty officers come out. They pay the salary and the FICA taxes. We get reimbursed for that, but that doesn't show up because we cannot show deposits in these line items. So that's basically what it comes down to. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm overspending and then not asking for enough for the coming year as far as that goes. And then, yeah, everything else just kind of falls in line. The transportation expenses are what they are. We started budgeting for 350 a gallon 10 years ago. So I say we leave it there, right?
Yep.
And it's that, yes, again, the biggies, the vehicles and equipment, we have been very lucky to have the state funding and our representatives taking good care of us there.
Councilor Roman?
Put in the budget every year, $4,000 for supplies. But a couple of years ago, it was 817, and then so far this year, 835. What supplies other than equipment and et cetera, would account for the $4,000?
Well, Counselor, it's normally office supplies.
I've got the list right here if you'd like me to go over it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's office supplies like envelopes, paper clips, correction tape, desk calendars, banker boxes, batteries.
It just seems like the amount that's budgeted previously and to date, there's a significant gap between what's being requested for next year. Not a big deal, but I'm just curious.
I think they're all filled up on paper clips, perhaps. So
Well, and one of the things I don't see is, I don't see a purchase for any paper on theirs.
And we do use
That's
paper,
true.
so
Yeah.
that might be just another,
I think you guys have been stealing ours from.
I know that the other day someone came over to Village Hall with a, not your department, and I'm not going to rat out the department that did it, with a dolly and took 3 boxes. So we were down to 1 and getting ready for budget. So we are working on, so
Did that come under theft?
yes, it was, but I'm not going to wrap the department out. Years ago, all departments had a supply line item. And we would order our own supplies, right? But
Yeah.
we would order our own supplies. And then we changed it to, they pulled all our supply money and we put it back in, and Village Hall would order supplies, which is a nightmare. So now I think Charlotte's doing your own supply orders now. Lori's doing hers. So we're trying to get that back in, because when you have, say, the deputy clerk get all these requests, and then they get all these supplies in, then they have to have the accounts payable code it for who got 4 boxes of paper, who got 3. I think a lot of those supply numbers just got put into 2,900 or 1,200. And we're really trying to capture the actual, because I guarantee you he's got to go through, I'd say, 6 cases of paper a year, and they're $50 a case.
We do have a carton of copy paper on here from last September.
Yeah. And that I know, and I do know they do a lot of copying over at Village Hall when they've got to run major copies, but we do also pay for their copier service out of 2,900.
Yeah. And sometimes dispatch will send faxes over to admin instead of,
So
they get mixed up sometimes, but.
Councilor Woolman and
Yeah.
Councilor Murray.
What professional services entail?
so there are a few things there. One of the recurring ones is our security vendor, professional security consultants for the cameras and the fob access to the buildings, those types of things, the monitoring fees. For DUIs for blood draws for both blood and alcohol, that falls under professional services. For employee drug testing, that falls under our professional services too. I don't know off the top of my head where we are on that one for this year, but
It's a little bit under.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that we definitely use. And I think it's been a couple of years ago when recreational marijuana was legalized, we upped that a little bit. You were here when we had that discussion about we're going to get bombarded with these DUIs from marijuana and need blood draws all the time. And it's like $200 something for them to come out, and then another couple $100 every time they come to court. And that actually hasn't happened. It's still, most of our DWIs are still based on drugs, and then we're getting a pretty good number of refusals to submit to tests anyway. And we can't compel them unless it's involving a death or something, right? Where we need to get a warrant on it. So
On a blood draw.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, there's not a standard test for marijuana anyway, is there?
No, unlike alcohol,
So-
obviously, there's
Right.
no prescribed amount. I mean, they do market different equipment that's supposed to be able to. I think Colorado was using it, and they're losing the cases just like we are for DUI with drugs, because you could have the video, you could have the erratic driving, the poor performance on the field sobriety test, and then, like the mayor said, when you get down to it, right out of law school defense attorney is going to say, officer, what is the amount of THC that needs to be in your bloodstream for you to be considered impaired? And we're sitting there like this, right? So,
And how
No, no,
long
Brittany.
ago was it adjusted?
yeah, it could be in
That's
the
a long
big
time.
leagues, and yeah, and so we stress to the officers, you just do your job, don't worry about that. You
Yep.
get them off the street, keep them safe, and if there's, yeah, it is what it is. But hopefully, we don't have to ask for too much more under there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Counselor Murray?
Thank you. So, the animal services that got moved over into the administration, was that under your
Yes,
head
sir.
count?
No.
Not the current amount. No, they're
They were separate.
Yeah, we have 17 sworn personnel, including myself and the supervisors and the clerk Charlotte. So 18 employees total for us.
Okay, so but the animal services weren't on, their head counts were not under your,
Not anymore.
Department.
No, not since last
Okay.
year.
and also, I guess, does the state, do we have a contract with the state for paper supplies and office supplies?
We have,
Or do we have?
No, we don't
No.
use the state contract for the office supplies. We have a local vendor that actually lives in the village. And if it's a large order of supplies, then we look at who would be our cheapest vendor. Is it Staples? Is it him? But I'll tell you right now, $48.76 for a case of paper is a pretty good price.
Okay. I was just curious, who we had.
Right now, a lot of them are using unified office services, but sometimes I'll look at a price of something and say, hey, can you look at Amazon too? Because sometimes it is cheaper getting it out of Amazon.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, we do price comparisons on stuff periodically. So
Any more on police?
And as we're all aware, this is a fluid document, so we appreciate you keeping it that way for situations like this past year when we had to send our detective to Ohio and move a little bit from here and put it over there. So we appreciate your support.
Do you have a wish list?
Uh,
Or would it be more of the state, the ICIP?
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
say.
that's about it, Counselor. Yeah, it's all rainbows and unicorns at the PD as usual. So we appreciate it. Life's pretty good. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Good.
Moving on, Tanya.
All right, this one is going to also be Administrator Romero. We're moving on to Animal Services. This will be the first time they actually have a full budget, their own department. So you're going to see some increases in there that she'll be happy to go over with you, and I'll fill in when needed.
yeah. So, yeah, this, as Tanya said, this is the first time Animal Services has had a separate budget. So, as you can see, looking at, they obviously had no separate line item for things like fuel, maintenance of their building, vehicle maintenance. So all of that is going to be brand new, for this budget. Other contractual services, we're just asking for the same amount as was budgeted last year for their department. Supplies, we are asking to go up a little bit because we've been keeping track of things that they need. And so we're asking for a bit more in supplies than in previous years. We are asking for an increase in their uniform and linen expenses to have clothing for them because, occasionally their clothes do get ripped dealing with animals. So
They don't have to clean it more than once. It'll be down more than once a month that they clean the uniforms?
yes,
Good. So, I don't see the 25,000 in here.
that's a separate, it's
I
a
didn't see
separate
the-
special.
I didn't see the bottom either.
Yeah, no, it's
in
in the back.
Right. Page 17.
It's on page 17. It's 263000 is it's a special fund.
You want to do that one with this one, or you want to wait and do them in order?
Let's go in order.
Counselor Murray?
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
No, just the overtime seems kind of high. Do you think they need to hire somebody else?
No, this is for things like when we had the unattended death in the village on Sunday, they had to wait around for rescue services to come and take care of the animals. So there are times when they do need to be paid overtime, and we do let them choose. They can flex out the time if it's at the beginning of a pay period, they can leave early one day and then not take the overtime. But in this case, the staff member, it was the last day of the pay period. Their only choice was to get paid for that 2 hours that they were here waiting for, and they were able to get other animal rescues out here in 2 hours, which is pretty good. So,
And also 4th of July, they cover both day and night, Harvest Fest, Did they come in, Chief? Do you remember for New Year's Eve? I think they would say.
I think they did.
You
Yeah.
know, there's some stuff that is in there that we weren't really, we know that dogs are going to get out 4th of July night. And
Yeah.
so they stayed over till like 10 o'clock that night.
Was anybody, and I don't know where it'd be reflected here, received from Dennis Friends this year?
That would be special funds that would be
That'd be it.
reflected.
That'll be in your budget for grants and stuff when it comes to full council.
Okay, so that's not,
That is no,
Got it.
that all gets put into a special fund labeled Dennis Friends. That way it can be tracked because they have to do reports on it. They're only allowed to spend what they approved. So it's in a special fund. So we meet all grant requirements.
is this an appropriate time to raise a new item that may be falling under animal services? I mentioned this last year. Karma has been operating a food bank in the village since 2018. About 10, we get between 35 and 45 people twice a week on the 2 hours for food, for both cat and dog food. About 10% of those people who come in are Corrales residents out of a budget of about $40,000 a year. So 10% would be $4,000 to pay for, we have to buy the food, to supply the food bank. So I request we put some money in for that.
I don't think we can do that because of the anti-donation
Well, you
clause.
can do it through an MOU. We've gotten now about $17,000 from Sandoval County through an MOU.
So you want the village to request the money from Sandoval County
No,
then give?
No, from the village. Sandoval County is separate about, so probably of the 100%, 10% is Corrales. Probably another 80% would be Sandoval County and the rest for outside the county. So it would, and Sandoval County, as I say, is contributing about $17,000 from the county commissioner's funds this year.
I think we may need to look into that because the county has separate rules, for procurement and things like that they can follow. But this might be something, Counselor, that when we update our LEDA ordinance, we might be able to work in something in LEDA to be able to help fund that because LEDA is very flexible. So that might be something we might be able to do through that if we can't do it this way.
Years ago, when Karma took in every animal that was picked up, we had an MOU to provide medical services and food and et cetera.
Correct.
Yeah.
That was a service we were receiving. So that wasn't an anti-donation clause. We can look at it. I know we talked about this before and talked to the attorneys. What would have to happen though, I believe, to prove that it's a service is there would have to be some sort of documentation back from those Corrales citizens proving their low income and proving not just that. I'm not sure. We have to run this through not only through our attorneys, but I want to run it through the procurement group.
Yeah,
Just to make sure.
'cause
Did we want to look at me adding that 4,000 and then finding out how we can legally do it?
Yeah, we don't ask any income questions.
And I don't know if we don't, I don't know that income question may be part of what we need, but I need
Yeah.
legal to look at that.
I know there was a reason that our attorneys turned this down before, and I think it was all tied into the anti-donation clause, even with a MOU. And part of it is, I think, we would, like Tanya said, we would have to have some sort of proof. And if that's not something you normally do, I'm not sure how we would do this, but it's something that we could
Just
we
take a
could
look
look
at it.
into. Yeah,
Thank you.
we can look into it again.
Counselor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. So I noticed there's no capital equipment list for the animal services. Is that something we need to include?
You mean for like purchase of vehicles?
Yeah, or any equipment like that. I mean, it's just not listed here like it is under the other departments.
We would be happy to add that if you'd like to offer up a number.
No, it's, I mean, do they have a special truck where it has all the bins to take care of the dogs or?
Yeah, they have 3 trucks, and one has the, it's not a.
So one
camper.
of them does, we bought it out of the 262, the American Recovery Fund. It's heated and air conditioned. It is, when we replace the truck that it's on, it will have to go on another long bed. It is completely removable. We didn't buy it built in, so it can be moved to another vehicle. We've had that I sent the fire chief to help me pick it up 6 months.
Yeah.
Around 6 months. And that truck does not get used a lot. They have 2 other trucks and their trailer, but I believe Melanie was going to ask to add that to the ICIP also because we figure and you never know when they're going to give you your capital out there, 2 years, 4 years this year. because to replace the trucks.
Well,
Vic
is it-
might actually. Is he down there?
He's behind
I
you
was gonna, oh, do you know the age on those two trucks?
for the, okay.
So I'm just curious, do we need to put about 10,000 into the capital equipment? Just for, purposes of that. But also anything that has to, maintenance to be done on the grounds as well for the building and the cats and the fences and everything
I
else.
think that would be great.
So we put in, let me start on theirs. Transportation, we're guesstimating 3,000 right now. Chief is still paying their fuel fees because there was no budget for it. And we didn't want to come back mid-year and ask you guys to make a new budget. Building and structure, we did put 1,000.
Okay.
Vehicle, I did put 3,500 because you don't know what's going to happen into maintenance.
So somewhere we're going to have to replace vehicles and so forth.
And a new truck is running, depending on what model you get, 45 to 60, $80,000. So we'll be happy to adjust anything you want. We did leave their employee training at 2,000 because Administrator Romero got them both certified level 2 animal control officers. They will have to do CE recertifications at some point. And their utilities may actually need to go up too, because they split part of their utilities with planning and zoning straight down the middle, and Juliana catch me if I'm wrong. And then they have a whole nother power drop for the building.
The new building.
So they have two electric bills.
The professional services, is that outside the village? Is that?
So their professional services fee was something that's been added in. Let's say the dentist friend money is gone. And they've got a whole bunch of animals in, and the 25,000 from the village is gone. Like they did an emergency vet fee out of that one. I don't remember what that dog was, but Petroglyph was where that emergency vet fee.
Chipping and all that good.
Chipping, they got a grant from, I believe, Karma, gave them a bunch of chips, and then people donate to them $25 a chip when they do it, and then they repurchase chips out of that donation fund as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So where did you want me to add?
Well, I was thinking
Can you
capital.
check with Animal Services officers and with Melanie and see for the next meeting what they might request, if anything.
I do know that Administrator Romero just approved new desks for them. They've been hand-me-downs. They're actually really nice, and I thought they wouldn't be. They got them from Amazon for like $200.
Yeah. I told them I was tired of them getting the hand-me-downs because they were like, can we have the old desk chair or the old chairs from the council? And I was like, no, we're going to buy you some new chairs. They're not that expensive.
They are getting 2 new laptop computers. Their desktop is currently a hand-me-down that is very old, so they're going to get 2 laptops so they could actually do some work out in the field. They're not going to have Wi-Fi, but they could start their reports in the field. I do think that we will, well, and there may be enough that we can take, hopefully, some from professional services to cover their utilities if needed.
Well, do they have a wish list?
Councilor Knight?
Thank you. So there's only 2 employees for this, right? The animal services.
Yes.
I the couple times I called to ask about something that a constituent asked me, it was like, well, this person doesn't work on that day, and that's their, that's what they are assigned to look at, this specific address. And it's like, that's kind of frustrating that if everybody's assigned something, the other person can't jump in and do that. So
Think of it kind of like the police officers. If Officer Velez pulls someone over, the judge can only ask Officer Velez or the courts because he's the citing officer. Same thing with animal control, or let's say we had 2 code enforcement officers, and one of the code enforcement officers went to my house and said, you need to pull your weeds. The other code enforcement officer wouldn't be able to answer the question on it.
Yeah. And
It's legal.
we have
and
them scheduled. One gets Friday, Saturday off. The other one gets Sunday, Monday off, so that they still get 2 days off in a row, like other staff members.
is that they have to be specific per site.
Right. If Kat cites someone into court and Bria walks in to present it and the judge is still online, and Bria came in to present it. She's like, you weren't there. How are you presenting this case?
Okay.
So it is very, Oh, I hear the judge.
I am still here.
So if an animal control officer didn't witness or cite the case, you wouldn't let the other animal control officer present it unless it was just presenting documents. And they'd have to know.
Well, correct. They'd have to also be on scene, but the citing officer has to be the one that ultimately testifies.
So even if they knew stuff, they shouldn't be talking to citizens or a counselor about the stuff going on because it wasn't their citation.
Okay, that's difficult then, because if, you know, you're calling about something that their day off and it's critical at that point, you know, it's kind of like, well, we gotta wait for.
I'm sure they would work 7 days a week, but overtime with a good pay increase. But and the other thing to remind people is when you call them, leave that voicemail. They're not sitting in their office and those voicemails go directly to their cell phones. They're set up that way. And they get phone calls all the time where people hang up and don't ever leave a message. And you gotta leave that message. If it's that kind of thing. If it's an emergency, then they have the phone number to call the dispatch center to get a police officer or whoever needs to come out for it.
That was explained to me. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Moldman, then Counselor Murray.
Scheduling. Each officer has an assigned work week. Saturday, Sunday off, Sunday, Monday off, whatever. But there are going to be gaps. People take vacation, they're sick. Has any thought been given, and we need coverage. We know that the county will pick up after hours. But on those days when there's nobody there, what happens?
Our police department does help fill in when needed. So yeah, we do have, I mean, you know, we're not going to let an animal run loose down Corrales Road.
Some officers that are trained more than others in terms of animal control services.
Council, they all have, you know, essentially, I call it a minimal amount of training. You know, we do have them spend time with both ACSOs, get familiar with the equipment and the intake process. Some are definitely more interested than others, you know, with the animal welfare issues. But yeah, if it's an in progress thing, we're not going to, a safety issue, then we're going to respond.
Yeah. And if it was a real emergency and we needed to call them in, we could call them in.
And they do cover. So like
They
some
do,
of that
yeah.
overtime is Kat took off a week. Brian worked 2 hours in the morning or 3 hours in the morning and 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon, even on the days off because they had animals in kennels. Fire department goes out on a lot of these animal calls. I spent 3 hours here the other day after work on a Friday doing one. The other wish list item that we did forget is they would like to set up, and so if Administrator Romero, an outside chip reading station.
Yes, that's right.
A what?
A chip reading station.
Oh yeah.
So we actually had an animal that was brought in after hours, and the police officer on duty was like, well, if you guys give us a chip reader, we could read it. And so, you know, Tanya and I were actually on the phone and I was like, you know, I saw something just recently about these stations where.
I gave you an article from
Yeah.
the journal.
Yeah.
That talked about fire stations and other places, libraries and all.
And animal services said underneath right by their door would be perfect because you're actually on camera. This animal actually got dropped off. They'd got it scanned and gave me the scanning number, and it was actually that person's dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was worked out. But that is one thing that they would like on their wish list. And
Yeah.
you buy a new chip reader and you buy a laundry line and you put it in a weatherproof box and
Yeah.
so
And I think it was only a couple $100.
it's like $500 for the chip reader. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Line item for that?
Yeah, well, that was one of our wish list items. We were going to ask for some money for that in their budget. And then that way we wouldn't have to buy multiple chip readers for the police officers to keep track of. They could just walk across the parking lot if it was off duty.
And they know the
and
fire station.
residents would be able to do it too. We would have instructions, you know, if you find a dog. And of course, you know, the system won't give them the name and address of who it's registered to. You have to call. But it can alert.
And
them
they
when
tend to wake up the firefighters at 2 a.m. because they know we have a chip reader.
I think.
And if
The
PD
animals
picks,
always take priority.
exactly, they get no sleep for the wicked.
Yeah,
But
so
I think I heard someone say you wanted us to come back with a longer wish list. I don't remember if it was Counselor Murray. Not a longer, but an animal services officers.
yeah,
Did I miss
if
that?
there's anything, yeah, somebody did mention if there's anything extra they wanted. Yeah.
She's taking some really good notes over there, so I think we'll.
Okay. Okay, so Counselor Murray had suggested adding 10,000 to a capital expenditures for things, maintenance or equipment that might need to be.
Do we even have an emergency drop off where they can drop animals off?
No.
I mean, it's kind of like the baby box in some respects.
Well, it's a little bit different. These people own the animal.
Yeah.
Basically, it's an owner surrender. And my understanding is that we don't do owner surrenders
You, depending, I mean,
officially.
like the dog that got brought in was I already had someone who's sitting beside me who would have taken in the heartbeat. But I think the original owner of the dog, because that was what the chip was registered to, I think got with the other owner and got the dog back because, they're small dogs. Emergency drop-offs, most people in the village, most of the time, the dogs get home. Someone sends a picture and I'm like, oh, that's Bodie, or animal control can do the same thing. And a lot of times we'll just say, hey, animal control's officer, oh, I'll hold it for the night. And before the night's over, Corrales neighborhood or next door has, oh, that's my dog.
It's amazing.
It really is how it works. And sometimes I'll follow a dog because I never believed animal services. And they say, yell, go home. And you yell, go home. And then you pull into the yard and you're like, yeah, it's my dog. It's amazing.
So the other thing I was thinking about, and I think you answered this, was I think the large animals, the chief and fire chief handles those, the large animal.
Large animal rescue.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had one just recently, didn't you? Yeah.
Counselor, what about the large animal?
I mean, you cover the large animal rescues basically, whereas the chief of police might cover the dogs and cats. But if they're animals, larger like horses or cattle
Or cows from Sandia Reservation.
If we get a call for service for a large animal, assist or rescue, that's under our department along with, other agencies. Animal services is part of that. If it's something that we have to, a horse that we, need to put in a stable, we coordinate with the rec center, put them in the, the temporary stalls down there, and or we get a hold of livestock board or other agencies that could help us, like the cows and the river, etc.
So one story I have is our front door camera caught a horse running down the road about 2:00 in the morning, and it was going towards Corrales Road. Well, about 15 minutes later, the horse was going back. And I talked to our neighbor who had the horse, and he says, yeah, we forgot to latch the gate, but the horse knows where he gets fed. So he went home.
Any other questions for animal control?
So out of this supplies budget, then be able to get the chip readers. Okay.
I think so. I think we can get the, I think if we can do it this fiscal year, we wanted to go ahead and move forward with it this fiscal year if we have the funds.
Are there fire staff at the second fire station 24 hours?
Not every evening. No.
Would it be beneficial if we can get a chip reader up there also and let people know that if they come across a stray animal, that might be.
I'd be interested in pursuing what has been shared. I've only heard bits and pieces about this, so I don't know what it consists of. If it's a self-serve station, then I think I'd be open to that. I don't want to commit some of my staff having to go out there at 3:00 in the morning. Yeah.
I don't know if he has cameras. One of the things they recommend through the companies that do this is you need an outdoor camera because you put a thing up that says you're on TV and do not leave your animal. So when that person comes and drops and ties an animal off at that chip reader, they've abandoned an animal to deter that from them being tied up in 110-degree weather when people may be gone. It's a Sunday and animal control could be on an animal rescue. So we really wanted a camera station, and that outside door in front of animal control has camera and I think audio.
I was just thinking if somebody has a dog runs out of its yard and they take the dog to get the chip read.
Most of the time they go to station 1 because they know.
Yep.
We have so many people don't even realize we have a station 2.
Just talking from experience, as you know, our department, we try to answer every call and every citizen's concern, phone call. when they come to the fire station and they have a dog, which we thank them for picking it up, but they don't have time. So they hand off to the firefighters, and then all of a sudden we're stuck with a dog trying to figure out where we're going to put this dog. And then if we get a 911, I mean, does the dog go with us? I mean,
Well, as
so
long as-
it's,
as long
it
as
gets
it's
a little
a,
complicated. So I
what's
want to
it,
see.
as long as it's a Dalmatian.
have a boxer.
right?
Yeah. So I would entertain the idea and maybe look into that, and maybe
Okay.
it might be, we make some improvements to the fire substation and put a camera or a ring or something like that to accommodate the citizen. I just don't want to commit my staff to more duties. Yeah.
I think of Council Roland, I think in terms, having one here at the animal services would be the best. Cause it's a single point that you can focus on telling everybody,
Let
single
everybody-
point, drop them off, or come down, whatever. But I think that would be better than having multiple areas.
And my recommendation, one of the things, because Administrator Mayor and I looked at it really hard, and Animal Control did too, is when you introduce it, you see if you can get a vet to work with you and do a big, huge microchip day. So people come get their dogs microchipped the same day they learn how to use the scanner, and turn it into a big public, you know me, I've always got a rescue dog, so.
Thank you.
Okay, well, moving on, Tanya. Fire.
I'm sorry, everybody, next up is the fire chief.
Okay, Mayor, Counselor, thank you. As you can see, there's an increase in my budget. This is something that, I've discussed in the past budgets. We're starting to realize this year it's affecting us. So we're funded for 15 full-time employees. I'm down 4 positions. This year, discussing with other department heads, I've never experienced this. As you see that, we have a lot of fire departments recruiting firefighters. We do our best. You do your best to support me when I come to you for a budget. As far as, wages, we just approved Para Step 5. It's taken us years to get that level. And so my budget kind of reflects what I call R&R, which is recruitment, retention, some employee longevity. I do have a lot of staff that have been devoted to this village. And so I looked at other agencies and they offer recruitment and retention and longevity pay starting around the 5-year. We looked at one at Albuquerque, and then it just starts to, as your employee is they're vested. It's a way to show them that we appreciate him or her and their commitment to the village of Corrales. Some of the things that we've discussed, manager and I, in our meetings, and mayor, is, I'm focused on Corrales though, right? So not having an employee that's coming in from another agency that's worked 10 years and is expecting this. It's got to be a vested employee in the village of Corrales that has been here for a period of time. Other than that, my budget is, as you know, I try to offset a lot of my expenses, utility, maintenance, training, out of special funds, which is the Fire Protection Fund, which we'll discuss at a later date. It's a special fund. As you know, I'm trying to build Fire Station 3, which is to house equipment. It will not be staffed, but by getting that station built and certified by the State Fire Marshal's office, I get some more monies from the state to help me offset some of those costs for equipment and training, etc. In my budget, you also see that, in the years past, which has been successful, we put in a line item there to help the Corrales Bosque Advisory Commission for needed things, whether it's signs, the doggy poop stations, the bags, try to keep our groundwater safe. And the CEAC, we have $3,000 in there for that to help offset some of their wishes that, because myself and Tanya are both liaisons for each committee. So we try to hear what they have and what some of their needs are in the community. So we try to add it to our budget for them. So this budget does not include Well, one of my wish lists is maintenance on some of our water tanks that we've had built since 2005, 2007. We just recently got them inspected, and they're going to be due for some renovation, like inside. We get a buildup of sand and sludge. We are talking about non-domestic tanks. They're strictly for fire. I do have some leeway there. It is an investment. It's part of our assets for the Village of Krause. So it's time to start having that discussion of, do we fix one now and then maybe one later, et cetera. So, but my budget does not include some of the calls that we get for services, which will probably be included in Public Works budget. But trees, trees are always an issue for us. We have trees in our right of ways. Public Works and I do our best to try to mitigate some of these, but they're beyond our level of training and capability. So some of the other things that I did not include in my budget were, as you know, the last budget that you approved, we put that emergency access at Applewood, which has been successful. There are a couple other locations in Corrales that I would like to do similar for emergency evacuation in the event of a disaster, fire, flood, etc. My budget did not include any sort of extra funds for clean and lean. I have a couple of cases that I'm working with planning and zoning that I won't go into detail because they may be coming before you, but they're nuisance properties, and we're going to do our best to try to mitigate those. And my budget also does not include any sort of emergency fund for a Bosque fire, which, as you know, I've stressed to you before that, we would be obligated to for full suppression costs of the Bosque if it was to catch fire. With Tanya's help, we would apply for a federal declaration to offset that, but we would still have some sort of a portion responsibility for full suppression costs. I'll sit for any questions.
Councilor Murray?
Thank you. So I know you and I and the mayor have talked about the interior drain. So is that a separate fund? Should that be a special fund request, or is that something we can include in your budget? Take care of any down dead and clean those drains, drain out.
Councilor Mayor, I think I didn't have time to look at Public Works, but I'm assuming he may have a line item for trees and vegetation removal.
Yes, Chief Council Mayor, Public Works does have some. The overtime would cover overtime that Chief brings in, just like tomorrow and Thursday, we're bringing in overtime for the high wind days. So unless they need new chainsaws or something for that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we are required to do maintenance on that interior drain. So I want to make sure we have that covered, take care of that north end, especially where the channel gets narrow. There's overgrown growth in the channel, so we need to make sure that that's cleaned out and it's not a fire hazard anymore. So I guess the other questions I have is, do we still have volunteers on the fire department?
We have a few. Yeah.
And do we cover the cost of training and equipment?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about the Bosque fire. How much would you need to maybe put in the budget to cover that?
That's based on a threshold. It's projected. I don't know.
So that one is a really hard question. So there's a threshold for Sandoval County, and it's a lot. So you have to have disasters that reach a threshold, and then you have to reach a county threshold. And then you have to be quick enough to file for your FMAG, your fire grant, emergency management funding, while the fire is actively burning. You cannot file after it's done burning. You've got to make the paperwork, get the amount of, you got to get with state forestry and get the amount of homes that are close by so you can get the damages that this fire could cause. And you've got to send that in while it's still actively burning, and then wake someone up at 2 a.m. at FEMA. And then FEMA says, okay, we're going to look at this. And they look at it. And if you call in and they're like, you say, I'm out fighting fire too, because normally I'll fight fire and then he'll be like, get out of here, you got to go. If that fire is like contained and no longer a huge threat, it's all costs on us. And by that is the state, we might be able to get pick up 25% or 12%, but it is in our boundary. we could be liable for 100% of it. So 300,000. If it's $1 million fire and we have to pay 25%, that's 250,000. It's just one of those things when we keep money in our bank account and we keep money in our LGIP fund to really keep in mind, because other places like Valencia County, it's not in their BOSKI. So it's all covered federal and state. So if we only spend, let's say we spend $500,000 on fire suppression, but the threshold we needed to meet was 650,000 or 650,000. We haven't met it. It's 500,000.
So is there an insurance policy we can take out?
No.
Or are we self-insured?
We're self-insured. And it's not the same as like an insurance policy on a building. And I don't think, I mean, a lot of insurance companies are telling you cut your trees. I mean, my daughter is one of those. Cut your trees by October or we won't insure you. And she's in Rio Rancho.
Well, just for an FYI, when we had the fire over here at the north end and it jumped the river over into the Sandia Pueblo, how much do we spend on that? Do we?
I think out of, what, do you remember?
So, Mayor, Counselor, I believe it was a very small amount. We got lucky with that because at the time, the state forestry representative was able to negotiate with the BIA and federal match and state funds. And so we had a small portion, I think it was a couple 100,000.
Okay.
But it was a large fire. But once it jumped into the Pueblo, then the feds picked up the cost for suppression on the other side.
So if we were to take this out of the LGIP, would that be considered a capital expense?
It would be a one-time expense.
I
That
think
part
it would be a
know.
qualifying expense. Yes.
I think so. I think for that, the Romero fire, we ended up paying close to $11,000 in expenses out of a check we wrote. But if we would not have been able to negotiate, so usually the origin of fire, you can go back and say, well, your fire came in from Corrales. We could have been on the hook for all of that. But BIA worked with us very well and they took up their own fire costs.
I mean, is that something we need to include as a budget item? I mean, is it, Mayor, I don't know. It seems like to me we're kind of dancing on needles with that possibility is with as dry as it's getting.
And Mayor, Counselor, if I may, I just try to disclose that in my budget that, you know, this doesn't reflect that, but it's definitely something that we need a conversation about. And whether it's LGIP and a percentage of the LGIP is locked up as an emergency fund or whatever we call it. I know that by law, we have to have like what, 3/10 or 2/10.
12.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so we just need that little reserve just in case, you know, we do get that fire.
Okay.
And as the emergency manager, that's not even, I mean, that's for flooding as well.
Yeah. So, but it's more of a discussion, you know, full disclosure. These are things that I have to think about that you know, you hire me to do. And I just, I don't have an answer. You know, if we have a fire this afternoon, you know, I'm going to be trying to get emergency management. I'm going to be having the mayor make a declaration. I mean, these are things that are just fresh in my mind right now because we are a community at risk. I've said this before, and you see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put water and trying to put hydrants, and I'm trying to fast track it. But I am behind. I'm not where I want to be. We don't have a hydrant at the end of Andrews and Metal Arc. Anyways, but thank you for the discussion. Yeah.
What about the municipal league? Do they cover any at all? No.
They didn't even cover our insurance for the old church when it got flooded in 2013, got denied by insurance. Luckily, FEMA did cover all but 25% of it.
Councilor Waldman?
Chief, would you be able to give us some estimates by the next meeting in terms of your wish list, the emergency exits like Applewood and those kinds of things? What you might like to see?
Well, I can tell you right now. So we have kind of it's a makeshift gate at the end of Coronado that the property owner out there and the previous public works director or two previous public works directors, we went and we put a gate and we have a lock, but it'd be nice to clean that up a little bit. It just gives us, as you know, we have very limited in and out of Corrales. And so, you know, on a weekend, with a high wind event, I get a little stressed around here when I see, we have a lot of people in the soccer fields and, if something happened, got to evacuate. I have very limited options. And so I'm always looking at other options. So Coronado is one. We would have to probably, reconstruct a gate, probably get an easement agreement with the city of Rio Rancho or property owner, which is going to cost some money. Possibly coordinate with PNM to move a guideline that's kind of in the way, so you can't get like a big truck through there. The other thing would be making some improvements on some existing access points. Down by the Bosque, I've been talking to Conservancy at Dixon where we put that hydrant. It narrows out for some reason. No one could tell me why that crossing is so narrow. So I would like to see if we can maybe, it costs an extra culvert. We'd have to remove a culvert, put a wider culvert in and then repack it. So things like that. So.
Okay. And the other question is, you're down 4 staff. Did they retire? Did they go to other departments? And what happened?
So one individual went to Antarctica, and I was kind of hoping he was going to come back, and I was trying to hold that position, but he's back, but he's not coming back to Corrales. Others, one is going to has signed on and been accepted to BCSO, and wants to pursue the law enforcement side. And looking at the wages and stuff, yeah, I can't match that. I don't even know if Chief Andrew Capper can match that. So, we try to recruit motivated, younger individuals. And, I've heard Chief, say this for years, you get some that just, we don't have everything they're looking for, right? You guys know me. I'm very honest with myself. So is it me? And so every time I lose an employee, I look at me and I say, am I doing something wrong, or what am I not offering, or how can I make improvements? So I'm going through that phase right now and just trying to reevaluate and it's retirement, which we're working on. It's the wages we're trying to match. I'm trying to come up with incentives, and then of course, just whatever I can do to, and as you know, we're a little different. Our employees work really hard for the citizens of Corrales. We're not just firefighters. We're not just EMTs. We help animal services. We'll help public works. PD calls us. We help them. That's who we are. It takes, we're wearing multiple hats. So the one thing I am proud of is, for as long as I've been here, we still provide a free service for EMS. We do not charge. Other places do. A citizen calls us for emergency medical services, it's free. Now an ambulance, they go by transport to a hospital, the ambulance company will then bill them or their insurance. But to get us to respond to their house, we don't charge. So, and until, if we get direction from you that you want us to look into something like that, I've always felt it's a good service to provide to our citizens, because when you approve this budget, you're approving us, to keep that service going. So. Any other questions? And going back to the staffing, I am in my evaluation trying to restructure a little bit. I want to have 4 firefighters per shift, and I have 3 different shifts. I have A, B, and C. And so that's my goal. Someone asked the question about Station 2. I don't have enough staff or qualified staff to house there every evening, but I do try to, 3 or 4 nights a week, I try to have someone there at night. I'm also looking at just trying to restructure my staff in a way that, everyone is helping with trainings, and because I'm bringing in new people and they may not be trained. And so we're going to have to go through this whole rotation again, which takes, a good year to get fire training. That's not even counting EMT training. So, and for the last 6 months, I thought I was gonna be down 5 positions because I haven't had a fire commander in the fire station. So, she's been at Village Hall doing budget. So, there's a lot of challenges in my department this past year. So thank you.
So I guess that does bring up another question, is there another exit point like at top of Angel Road? I know that was closed because of a court order, But is that, they're doing that whole development up there. Is there any chance about putting a gate up there?
Mayor, Counselor, you're absolutely right. There's a court order. I don't know all the details on the court order. I could tell you years ago, I had an agreement back in 2005-ish when the property was owned by Curb Inc. The city of Rio Rancho had entertained an idea of putting a hydrant at the top of Angel and top of Camino de la Tierra. At the same time this court order was going through, we had respectfully requested a gate at Angel and a gate at Camino de la Tierra to serve only for two reasons: emergency access for public safety, and two was for the city of Rio Rancho to service those hydrants in the event that, whatever. At the time, the court order came back, closed means closed, no access gates, the wall is going up. So that's where I've kind of left off. They're in construction phase right now. That's something that would be at your direction. I'd be happy to look into that to see because they're going to put, we're working on an easement for the city of Rio Rancho to provide the village of Corrales. It's in negotiations right now, an access point for a water line so I could fill the big water tank. So now would be the time, with your direction, to look in if that would require some sort of access. They haven't mentioned it. They were talking about going underneath the existing wall. So, but I'd be happy to look into that if that's the direction of the mayor and the manager and you. I just don't know enough about the court order and what it speculates.
Mayor, do you think it'd be worth exploring that possibility? Because, I mean, far northwest sector, we've got at least two exits, or at least three exits out of that area. But Angel Road, it's a long road, and if it gets blocked off down at the south end or east end, they've got nowhere to go. So I'm wondering if that shouldn't be a priority.
I think we can explore it, but there's a lawsuit, or there was,
Yeah.
and I don't know exactly the specifics of what that allowed or disallowed. I think it was pretty definite there would not be access, but I don't know the
either.
Well, I mean, times have changed. I mean, it's obviously the old wall's coming down, and then they're putting up a new wall, from what I understand, because of the court order. But before that happens, maybe we ought to explore maybe having an access point, because as long as nobody goes through or is able to go through, I think that was the point. So, that was the problem, was that people were using Angel Road to go into Rio Rancho, or Rio Rancho come into Albuquerque, into Corrales. If there's a locked gate there, it seems like to me that would be a acceptable point, because it's still blocking access. I don't know. It's something that we need to.
I don't know the details, but didn't the residents? They're the ones who filed the lawsuit.
Yeah, but
There wasn't. They didn't want access to Rio Rancho. So, but as I said, I personally do not know the details of that lawsuit.
Yeah, I think we would have to open up negotiations with the people that filed the lawsuit,
Right.
if they're still the property owners of those properties.
Be a bad idea, because it's, they're really at risk just because there's only one way in, one way out.
They're the ones who filed the suit, though.
Yeah, I know. But I think if we pointed out to them that it would still be blocked, I think it would be, might be worth their benefit.
And I think we just need to be real careful how we word any of those discussions, because we don't want the newspaper headline to be that we're opening up Angel Road. So it would just be, looking at negotiations to put in an emergency access gate to replace the wall.
And I do like Lori's idea back over here. Chief couldn't hear it. She said, when you talk to them, maybe they'll take like a solid core gate with the Knox box that we can, so it looks more like a wall all the time, so no one tries to sneak through. And I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? As always, thank you for the support.
The first item you brought up, amount of money that we have reserved for a fire. Is that money that whoever they might be, want to see that we have it reserved? Otherwise, we don't fit the category, and But we know we're gonna get that money from anyway, from LGIP funds anyway.
No,
right?
this would just be us knowing that we
Yeah.
can cover the expenses. It has nothing to do with any other entity. This is just, do we have the money if we have a fire to be able to pay for it?
Yeah, I think Chief's worry is we have a huge fire and it costs us $600,000, or you guys know you gotta come back and give us money and not lay off half the village to cover it. That is, am I correct, Chief?
Yeah, and so these fires aren't getting any cheaper. And if you look at some of the fires, and I've been monitoring closely some of the fires down south where they burned structures, and some of the only ways they were able to really stop and control these fires was, heavy equipment, bulldozers, and airplanes. And anytime you bring in an airplane, it's, it could be $200,000 a drop, $300,000 a drop. I mean, so it just starts adding up. But again, yeah, it's just more of an emergency fund for us. And yeah.
We would have to pay for it after the fact. That was my question. If we take it out of LGIP, where would we go? We go to LGIP funds anyway. So is it better to put them on, or do we not get any kind of, if we take them out, we're getting some interest, but if we take it out and put it in the fund, then we'll get that interest?
I don't think we necessarily have to take it out of LGIP, but I think maybe passing a resolution that just says that, 700,000 of LGIP will never be touched unless it's for a fire. And because the current LGIP, or the current resolution that kind of controls LGIP says that the council cannot spend more than half of what was originally in that fund, which is about $2 million, is what council has access to spend. So you could change that spending limit and say, we're going to keep this amount of money in a contingency fund in LGIP for the purpose of paying for a fire in the event that occurs, but we would only touch it in that event. And then that wouldn't be counted against the 2 million that council could draw from. But that's a council decision. There can be a discussion about that.
If it's a resolution is all we need, where else would we get that money from anyway? We're gonna be billed.
I mean, we could, we have a proposal here later on to put half of the stagecoach sweep money each month into a special fund for planning. We could take 25% of that and start building a contingency fund that would be a special fund. And we could have, there's nothing to say we couldn't have multiple funds. We could start building this contingency fund, fund it out of the stagecoach sweep, not benefits, but proceeds. And then say, in an emergency, we will grab from LGIP, or if we have a huge fire where we needed even more, we would take from LGIP, we would take from here, because again, we don't want to have to lay off employees, but we have to cover these expenses somehow. So let's start building these contingencies and have a plan. There's that word, we need a plan to make sure we know how we would handle this if that happens.
Yet it also seems that, there have been many wildfires lately, and municipalities aren't collapsed because of the cost. And there must be, I don't know, some insurance coverage or some, whether it's FEMA or, because municipalities just aren't go belly up when there's a fire, whether it's in California or the Pacific Northwest or wherever. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like
So
there ought to be some type of, other charges or other costs, reimbursements where municipalities just don't die because there's been a fire that they cannot pay for out of their own pocket.
And again, we can have further discussion. I just wanted to bring this up, that I like the idea of a resolution for money for like an emergency, whether it's flood, fire. Mr. Mayor, you're right. We have to be aggressive and apply for federal funds to help us offset these costs. The other thing too is when I'm talking, to other municipalities, years ago, state forestry used to pick up the cost for our fire suppression in the Bosque. And then something changed where they looked at our annex lines and said the Village of Corrales has annexed the Bosque Preserve. Therefore, the Village of Corrales owns it as far as fire suppression responsibility. So the land is owned by the feds and the MRGCD. We provide fire and police services. It's within our Village of Corrales boundaries, therefore it falls under the Village of Corrales responsibility. If it was not under the Village of Corrales boundary and it was just the Bosque Preserve, it would fall under the state forestry boundary and they would be responsible for full fire suppression costs.
It seems that we ought to be able to apply for state or federal funding specifically for that. I mean, because that would be a big fire. Could be.
Yes, it would be a big fire. And so there's, I mean, we can have this discussion. Maybe we look at the documents where it identifies that and maybe talk to state forestry and the legal and say, you know, how come at one time you paid for it, but now we have to pay for it? Where do we meet in the middle or something?
Right.
Yep.
I mean, this is ownership. I mean, management and it's their land really, but it's yeah, maybe we have to have those negotiations. Yeah.
And I always have to say this, prevention, right? So, you know, I'm always trying to look at the Village of Corrales and identifying, you know, risks, you know, community risk reduction. And the Bosque is one large risk. And so, as you know, I go to the Corrales Bosque Advisory Commission, I go to State Forestry. We're always trying to pursue mitigation funds to help reduce that risk. But we're limited. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we've been going on for like over 2.5 hours. Do we need a break or we?
Try to finish.
Huh?
We're going to power through.
Moving on. All right, Steve.
Yeah, what people want, it's fine by me. I'm just bringing it up. Okay, let's power through. Next, Public Works.
And I think this, Councilor Murray, would be the appropriate place for anything for the interior drain. If you wanted to add money to Steve's budget for maintenance of the interior drain.
Do we have an idea how much it costs to clean out trees or the interior drain? I mean, is we just, maybe it's a multi-year fund?
I would have to, I'm sorry, Mayor, Councilors, I would have to take a look at it better, to be honest with you. I haven't really looked at it. We have some mowers and stuff that'll get into the drain and clear some of the brush, but I really haven't
Well,
looked.
I mean, even if it's a contract, could we contract it out, have it cleaned up?
You know, who would decide what needs to be cleaned?
Well, all right, we are responsible for the interior drain.
Yeah, I got it.
Well, then, Steve makes a determination. He's public
So
works.
I'm just wondering, when I ride my bike down there, you were talking about trees. There are trees that are in the ditch that come out, but it gives a lot of shade. So I don't know if you'd want to just cut those trees down.
Yeah, but if there are fire hazards that very north where the kennels are at, it is really narrow and it is really dense.
This area wasn't narrow. Yes, I'm just wondering.
Well, but it's also, we've got problems where we haven't identified the culverts, whether they're public or private. That needs to be done. If they're private, then the residents need it.
We could do all of that.
Yeah,
Just
but Steve
in my opinion, I'm
well-
just asking.
I think that kind of goes back to our vegetation management that Chief has talked about in the past.
Mayor, councilors, and Councilor Murray, Mayor, we had a little discussion out by the ditch. And if I'm correct, Mayor, the direction you wanted me to go was to identify an area and then possibly put together a plan. And then we were going to open it up to, I think, the citizens in that area to say, you know, we need to do something, but keep the large trees that are healthy, that are in the ditch, but clean up a lot of the dead and stuff because we have a lot of laddering fuel. So it'd be like a scale thing. We wouldn't go clear cut everything unless that was the direction of you, but we would selectively try to make it safer, but still provide for some shade and stuff.
Yeah, we had
That-
discussions and it would involve the people along the ditch too, because they've been fairly active in how that area is managed and they have some vested interest and they're keeping live trees that are doing well, but taking out dead trees, dead and down, is a good idea. But, you know, involving the people who.
There's also culverts that are plugged too that need to be cleaned. You know, I mean, yeah, the ditch is no longer a viable drainage area, but there are still culverts that need to be cleaned. And I think the chief identified at least one culvert where maintenance needs to be done because it's in danger of collapse, if I'm not mistaken.
But actually, most of those culverts are not functional because, you know, north of La Entrada, all the culverts are basically closed until you get to the school. But the drain doesn't function as a drain anymore because the water table has dropped. And as far as, you know, is a flood going to happen that's going to overflow the segments of the interior drain, or the culverts have to be painted, that'd be tough. I mean, like in La Entrada, the Hanson drain is plugged, and the Hanson drain is probably private. And, you know, is a flood going to occur that's going to overflow the current La Entrada culvert, which is actually open
I
mostly.
think a lot of it depends on what the BLM agreement is. If they have us responsible for maintenance, then we need to take care of it. I think that's.
That agreement said we could actually fill in the drain.
Right, if we need.
I think we have to put a pipe underneath it if we fill it in, but we could actually fill it in if we wanted to.
Okay. That's the case then, but I know that you're gonna get a lot of NIMBY requests because they don't want it touched.
Well, yeah, nobody's saying that we want to do that, but
But
that is,
it's still
it could be.
hazard up. I don't care who says, you know, they don't want it done. I think it's a fire hazard, so.
So are you recommending that the area that we pick for the first section be that northern section that's pretty bad? Okay.
I would, have the chief and Steve get together and come up with a plan. Like you say, take out the trees that are dead and down, you know, but geez, I mean, let's make sure that we're not, you know, creating a hazard for people by leaving it there. It needs to be taken care of. That agreement says we will take care of maintenance.
And Mayor, Councilor, I could try to work on that plan maybe before our next budget meeting, because just a week ago, I was contacted by a citizen that is concerned in that particular area. So I think it'd be a great area to start.
Yeah.
It's very thick and dense and a lot of dead, so.
Well, you know, it doesn't have to be a 1 year to take care of everything. We can just schedule it maybe on a yearly basis.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steve.
No, you're good. So my budget has basically remained the same. We've increased in our payroll and benefits, in our fuel, and in our building maintenance. We still have monies for tree removal and speed signs. And then we still have the 550,000 for match road projects and road repair. Is there any questions? Sure.
Okay, so nothing in other supplies for this year. Is there a reason why we had an amount there and then we're not doing it this year? Other supplies at 46,900.
Can I answer, Steve? Because I'm working on getting people to code their stuff correctly. Some of the trees were coming out of like those lines, so we've got some money in supply. But then the money for supply went up, and then we'll move it for when he cuts trees. So other supply has some tree items that came out of it, and it really should have come out of contractual services. So we've just moved it up, so it's up in the supply because he needed some there, but still give him some tree money. This is Steve's first full budget, second full budget.
First full budget,
Yeah.
basically first full budget.
You know, so we're doing a lot of in-house trainings with just budget.
Councilor Waldman
Yes.
and Councilor Knight.
Capital roadways, bridges, you have, 2 years ago, 550,000 in the budget. And then, the projected was 120. Revised budget 120, and now you're up to 550 again. What accounts for that?
A lot of it depends on if we do get the funds, if we get our grants, our local government road funds, you know, that part of that is match for those funds.
It's just for Coronado and, Climbing
And
Acres.
Reclining Acres, that's part of it, yes.
Okay.
And we also, if you look, we move it to meet where, so if you look at, it started at 550,000, but the revised budget's 120. But then he had 79 for culverts and 77 for a vehicle. So he moves it to meet those capital numbers, but it gives you a starting point, which seems to be holding very true for his budget.
So that raises the question about the capital equipment and machinery. Do you have what you need in terms of machinery? Because it was 167, now it's down to 40,000.
Yes, we do. The one thing we wish list or are kind of looking into is a striping machine. That would be the only thing that I could foreseeably see that we would need or have a use for
A striping machine,
to stripe the roads.
right? But this would be after Albuquerque Asphalt or whatever does the road, and a separate contract would normally be in place for the striping. I'm thinking about what Councilor Murray, on a perhaps somewhat repeated basis, asked for Angel Road in terms of striping. Would that cover something like that?
It would. I have some quotes for Angel Road. I was just going to get with the mayor on a couple things as far as how we would like to stripe it. But we kind of look at the cost of how many roads need to be striped, how much it will cost as compared to if we did ourselves, how much the initial cost of the machine, and then the benefit from doing ourselves.
Do you have a number in mind? How many roads need to be striped?
I didn't bring it with me, but I would say most, other than what has been done in the past couple of years, Cabazon, Meadowlark, Sagebrush, but most of the other roads do need to be striped.
Thank you. And do you have an estimate of what that might cost to get a machine to stripe?
I started looking around $100,000 to $150,000 for a size of a machine that would work for us.
And if we needed a contract out for that, what would the comparative cost be? You know, like,
So the bid I got for Angel Road, if it ends up getting striped the way we think it might, it would be initially $8,500. They recommend that any road that gets striped originally gets striped twice. So actually it would be 17,000 plus any type of traffic control that would go along with that.
Councilor Murray, then Councilor Mira.
Councilor Rowland, with the DOT, we were talking about striping, and DOT was telling us that the two major companies that are in town that do striping, they're booked solid.
yeah, I'm sure.
And that therein lies the problem. Now, I do know, I saw in the ICIP that we had 200,000 down for a striping machine, which is fine too. The other question I have for you, Steve, is do we have any budget items for cleaning the ditches up on the west side of the mesa? A lot of those get filled in after a rain, you know, and I don't think we're taking care of that in terms of maintenance, you know, and cleaning those ditches out so that you don't have this, you know, water flowing across the road.
We actually did start. We started on, it would be the south end, and we did up to past Ashley Lane. And then we called in spots for just north of Ashley Lane, but then we kind of got a couple other projects came up, but that is on the list of stuff to do is to clean those out. So typically we'll just look at the inlet, the outlet, and shoot the middle and see what kind of grade we have to determine how much sand we need to get out of that. But we are starting to do that.
Okay, so are we also looking at maybe rocks, you know, so that you can slow the water down if it's a real steep slope? I mean, you know, it's kind of like, you know, it's a step mechanism, like, you know, just to slow the water so that it doesn't create you know, cut the ditch, you know, even
Yes,
more.
we have some riprap, and we actually recycle riprap at our yard. We have a screen that once we get enough, we'll screen the dirt out and reuse a lot of that riprap. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilor Mira.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to repeat what he said, that when we had that meeting with the DOT, good things came up. One of those was that we don't need any permission from them anymore to cut down weeds and along the along the roadways, which is really great because you worked that out initially, and I want to thank you for that. But now we have that permission. Now we just got to have all the funds to be able to cut it, because I can see that that's going to be an ongoing thing. A request from people saying that things are getting so high, I need you to cut the not the trees per se, specifically, but all the weeds that get about 6-7 feet tall in an instant. And so you had that down here you said you put some more money in that kind of situation. And then the roadway, I think, whatever it takes to get those striping in is important. I mean, personally, and working with others, long time ago, just that whole idea. I know I go down slower when I'm driving down, Corrales Road, even though it's 35, and I drive faster when I'm up there on Lomolada, and it's only 30. It's just that initial sight that it's nice and big and wide, and I can go just a little bit faster. But over here, if you just take those, that same idea and make that striping even closer up, even on top, whenever that should come, it'll make people drive slower. I mean, there's a lot of research that has gone into that one, but it's better if we have our own. And if you have that in here, I like it. If you don't have it in here, I really suggest that you put that striping machine in there.
I do want to make just one quick clarification. DOT didn't say that we didn't have to ask permission, but Steve has the direct line for the person to call. So we still have to call and say, hey, can we do this? And they may say, oh, well, we're going to be out next week. We'll take care of it. But yeah, no, we still have to ask permission. It's just, we don't have to go through a whole rigmarole of, yes. So we have a direct call to the right guy.
Like I
Yeah.
said, he had that number down already, so that really helps.
Yeah, I think a couple of us have that guy on speed dial. So yeah.
Thank
Any other questions for Public Works?
And Steve, did you have any other wish list items besides the striping machine?
No, that's the only one.
I do have a question, if I may, Mayor.
Sure.
Steve, with all these things they're asking you and the fire, sorry, I'm eating my lunch. The fire chief to do,
Eat, I want to eat.
is the 3,000 in your overtime appropriate?
You know, we could adjust that up. That would work.
How does council feel about, because there are a lot of, I mean, he does go out with the fire chief who is salary, and Steve is too, but, or not salary, or exempt. And his crew does do the Bosque cleanups every week and stuff. So can I move that to 5,000 with permission of the council and mayor?
Oh,
I mean, we get a major snowstorm, we have to clear the roads.
That's gonna, and hopefully we get a statewide disaster and that would just get back.
So
May
you're
I,
saying
Mayor?
move that 3 to 5?
Yeah.
Oh, easy.
Chief.
Easy.
Mayor, if I may, thank you for bringing that up. So again, yeah, Steve has been helping us when we do firewood dead and down pickups. We try to get with direction of the Bosque Advisory Commission when it's not nesting season, one Saturday a month. And I think our discussion is like, if we could do 2 Saturdays, we have so much dead and down in that bosque, and his crew provides, the trucks, and then we have an agreement with the Sandoval County landfill to dump it so they get recycled. But the other thing I want to make note of that we have been working on, and we're getting ready to do a refresher training, is Steve and his guys are helping me with fire patrol as well. So not fire patrol. His tanker trucks have been modified. His new truck had been ordered with fire department connections so they can pump water to our fire trucks. They have spray bars. They have dump valves in the back so they can back up to our tanks and dump their full load of 4,000 gallons. So, this season we could be using them more. So, thank you for bringing up that overtime budget. This would be very helpful.
So you don't use it, you don't use it, but
Yeah, no, 8 sounds good.
10. I think it's perfect. It's all.
And then the 8 will go up by 7.65%.
Councilor Murray?
No comment.
I asked, how about goats? Have we ever thought about, do we have a contract for goats?
I've got 3. They're overrated. They don't eat nearly as much as you think.
Well, no, they're using them for mitigation, for
Yeah.
grass and everything else.
Chief, didn't you bring in goats one year?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Mayor, Council, if you recall, we did a pilot project in Corrales with the goats, and then we didn't have any funding, but they've been utilizing the goats all around us. We have a plan working with MRGCD on some of the mitigation projects that we're currently doing for the goats to come in the second phase to help clean it up. So they're coming back. I just don't know when. Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
$3,000.
Yeah.
Well, and that is all under grant funding.
How many employees are in the department?
There is 6 of us total.
6? No, Steve,
No, Steve.
yeah,
Yeah,
6.
Yeah.
yes.
Good, thank you. They seem to be everywhere sometimes.
We secretly cloned them. Don't tell anyone.
Right, and if you add the clones in, you're fully staffed.
Yes.
They're virtual.
Okay, okay. Want to move on to general services?
So this is that wonderful 2,900 fund that we've been talking about that holds a lot of stuff. And once again, Administrator Romero, I will fill in where you need me.
Okay, great. So yeah, so this is for things such as our IT services, our attorney services. We did get notification from our attorney that when we do our contract extension at the end of this year, his rates will be going up. We currently pay Randy $200 an hour for his services, and for his, I think Ken is under that same pay rate as well. And then for some of the junior associates like Corey, we pay $180. But starting January 1 of 27, that'll go up to $250 an hour and $200 an hour for the associates. So, so that budget that is reflected in this budget for that increase. We have things in here. I believe this is where the water team is budgeted for. So we've budgeted to keep them on for another year. On that note, we got word today that there were no protests on our combine and commingle application. So that application will be moving forward. So yeah, so they're doing they're earning their big bucks. So yeah, and then yeah. Yeah, and Brittany has done all of our water documents are now in one file. It's all organized. She gave me a thumb drive so everything has now been digitized. So I think that was definitely money well spent this year, just getting our stuff in order.
Currently at several options for purchasing more senior water rights though. And that team is integrally involved.
Yeah. So, these are things like some of our, plans that don't fall under a specific department, they'll come out of these budget items. Counselor Murray, did you have a question?
Yeah, contractual services is a decrease from 312 to 200,000. Is that because the contracts are being moved into other areas, or?
I'm looking. 45,900.
Yeah. So
45,900.
it was, the 25-26 budget revised was 312,000. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of cleaning up of stuff over this, having Juliana and Tanya come in. We've realized there's some areas that need to be cleaned up so that we don't take hits on the next audit. And they're working really hard to make sure that things are getting cleaned up and that we're catching them before our auditors catch them. And so we're, things that maybe got placed, as we talked with the revenues, things that got coded under the wrong account and got put in the wrong place. Same thing for expenses. Sometimes, we don't always, the person in charge at the time didn't always know what line item it should come out of. So things came out of incorrect line items. So we're still working on cleaning that up. As part of why, Tanya's spent so many hours here. She's been here till 10 o'clock on many, many nights. Still doing firework though, Chief. I promise you.
It kind of brings up another question. So are we going to remove those items that don't have money appropriated for this year from the budget so that they don't show up in the,
Well, if we've spent the money, it has to reflect in our budget somewhere. So,
well,
yeah.
If they don't have money assigned to them, I think it's employee training.
So employee training did have money assigned to it. It was coded wrong. It was put in here and I've already moved it out. So that one, if there is nothing from 2024 to 2025, it can be moved out so you don't see it. It's still technically an available line item. It's still in the computer. We can do a bar to it. We can do a budget transfer to it.
Okay.
But if it had 24, 25 activity, by state rules, I have to have that line open.
Okay.
And your employee training did, but I moved it.
So my other question is, are we giving Tanya a stipend for doing two jobs at once?
No,
No, she's a clone. She's not a real clone.
No, that's okay.
Well,
It's okay.
The previous administration, I think, gave her a small pay bump at one point, but she is worth a lot. And
well,
we,
that's-
we,
I mean, is she, I mean, yes, she's doing two jobs at once. Is she being compensated as such?
she is not receiving two separate paychecks now.
Okay.
Counselor Waldman?
Claims slash judgment settlements, nothing allocated for that.
I think we usually just move money in there if we have, that would be like, when we had the settlement with, Mr. Flora.
Yeah.
Then we would find the money in, either previous cash.
So no reason to.
Right there. Yeah. And knock on wood.
I don't want bad juju and
Yeah.
put money in there.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. We don't budget that unless we know that there's something coming down the pipeline that could, cause us to need that.
And if you notice, Counselor and Mayor, you would ask about those line items. If you look, we did increase the budget by 48,000. We just did move stuff around to be more where it should be coming out of. And the department heads are really working hard to learn it. Raina was a great finance officer. But I think some of our department heads, she was here mainly during COVID, and we've had some new department heads. So that learning curve and just feeling confident and being able to ask the questions, what is this line item for? Or like I sent out detailed reports and Marianne said, hey, those are supposed to come out of my grant funds. So we'll get together and move it to our grant funds at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. And our finance director there for a little bit, she would look back at what had been where something had been pulled from the previous year, and that wasn't always where it needed to come from. For example, our payment for the IPRA portal that we have through Granicus, the GovQA portal, that accidentally got pulled from lodger's tax because they saw a payment to Granicus for the short-term rental. And then also that got paid out of it, but we hadn't requested lodger's tax pay for that this year. So some of that, it was just not knowing the history of the previous, request of why it got pulled from the lodger's tax fund. So that's already been corrected and moved back, and that money's been replaced. But we just had some incidents like that where something got pulled from the wrong line item, and we're working on cleaning that up.
Counselor Mary?
Just one other question. I think this gets back to the attorney. When it comes time for his contract to be up, are we going to look to see if his fees are in line with everybody else around in the area? Because are we getting our money's worth out of,
He is. And he really, Randy is the only one that provides legal services geared towards government. There really isn't another legal group that concentrates just on municipal law. But just in terms of other attorney fees, it is about on par. And, I've looked at right now the Grants has an RFP out for attorney services. And, I've been looking at some of those things. But yeah, he has one more year on his current contract where we can do a contract extension before we have to go out and do a new RFP.
It brought up a question about when we were talking about the county clerk and whether we had, as a village, could we sue the county clerk, and then come to find out he is also Sandoval County's attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it came push to shove, who would he represent?
We could request that, or we could go out and hire another attorney. At one point, the village of Los Ranchos had 5 attorneys that they had that were different. One did their water stuff, and one did their land stuff, and one did their government stuff. And they just had all of these niche attorneys, but they didn't have one group that could do everything.
Budget's probably much higher numbers too.
It really is. It really is. And it was a nightmare for their clerk, to be honest. She was not really happy having to deal with that many attorneys.
And if I may, Mayor, Administrator, and Council, so far to date, for those attorney fees, we've only paid 72,000 in fees. And I know that doesn't sound like it's a little, but it is actually a small amount considering they come to all your council meetings, some planning and zoning meetings. I mean, and we use them quite a bit. I walk in and say, or Chief walks in and says, Melanie, we have a question, and she'll send off the email to ask it. So I think this is less than last year, but I will pull that for sure.
So to date means from
April 17th, sir.
from July 1 to April 17th.
And that is less than we would be paying an attorney if we had them in-house and it would be one person.
Yeah.
Because benefits alone for a family are going to be, village portion's going to be over 20,000.
We've only paid 70?
72.
Wow.
So the administration is managing.
So that's a different line item. I mean, Randy sits in on some of those water meetings, but that's just for Randy's services. So, yeah.
Administrator Romero did think you were going to have questions on a lot of those. So the water team so far is at 70.
Yeah, but that's for Brittany Guam, Carol Cristiano, John Stomp, and Mike Hammond. So that's four experts versus, I mean, I guess with Randy's services, technically we're paying for Ken, Randy, and Corey. So that's three attorneys. But they have other attorneys that will do things behind the scenes. They'll, they have one guy that helps us with, wording on ordinances and some of the things for planning and zoning. They have attorneys that'll are kind of in that wheelhouse. So.
Yeah, they've been doing a great job, I think, from my point of view. They're on call and they're responsive, and
I do wish they'd speak up a little bit more sometimes in certain.
yeah, I don't disagree.
Anything else on 2,900? Did we have a wish list for 2,900? I didn't write one down, so I don't think so.
I don't think so. You know what, I'm going to have to take a picture of my, I invite council to come in, and visit the administration office. We used to have a board in the hallway, right outside the administrator's office that was mayor's goals. And it was originally started by Joanne Roque. And Mayor Fahey just kind of kept that as his goals as well. And when I first started with Mayor Hashimoto, I was like, I'd like to make that more, village goals. And so we've done that with village goals. And we have things on there like, striping Angel Hill and putting in the pilot project of sprinklers with the fire line. So I should take a picture of that and share it with you in my next administrator's report so you can see kind of what, this has come from talking to department heads and things like that. Of
Whiteboard.
Yes, I do. I actually have two now. So I have the one in the hall and the one in my office.
Not officially. It'll happen. And I'm still not in Wikipedia as mayor, so that'll happen too. I'm not in any rush for that.
So the next fund's going to be a new fund that Administrator Romero and the mayor have talked about. And there's just a fake budget in there right now. There's just a fake number. It is where we discussed taking half of this year's sweep or next year's sweep, leaving all this year's sweep in. It's really at the direction of the council and administration. And when the sweep comes in, leaving a percentage in general fund revenue and moving a percentage to a designated fund. And like she said, it could all go to planning. You could do 25 planning, 25 contingency in a special fund. This is where nothing's built. Numbers are just thrown in to say, do we want to consider this and what numbers do we want to look at? I mean, you could also go, okay, we want to seed it with, if there's any revenue left over at the end of the fiscal year, we want it for the final budget. We want 5% of the cash left over, the revenue over expenses put in it. This is yours.
And I think the idea behind this would be, it would be a fund where when we do have a project that needs some sort of design or planning work, we could pull it from this fund. So, something like a master plan for all of the properties, we could say, okay, we have $50,000. Let's see if we can get somebody that would do the work for that. Or, Steve needs to design Parea Road. We could say, okay, we're going to pull the money from the planning and design budget to go ahead and design that so that we can get these projects shovel ready to then go out and get the capital outlay funding or other grant funding or what have you.
And we started one today with fire, so.
Yeah.
Melanie, do you have enough experience yet with the Stagecoach Fund to see what we're averaging per month?
I want to say it was it 24?
So it's more than, actually it's more than, the LGIP right now.
Yeah.
So we are at what's her total on 84,000 since October, and October was a short 12, a short partial month.
Yeah.
So we're,
I mean,
we're,
there are 5 months.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I do have that number. I just don't have it
And I
with
didn't
me.
bring it with
Yeah.
me either. And I just got one in. I think the last one was 13. Right.
Yeah.
Those are just interest, right?
That is, you can't even call it interest. That's why we put in there, because it's revenue off of, I'm not even sure what I want to call it, because
Yeah.
it's not really interest. It's kind of interest, but it's also municipal funds. It's
It's investment
treasury
income.
bonds, and yeah, it's an investment.
So this is a very obviously realistic figure. This 50,000 is
50,000 is well less than half. And I just really, Administrator Romero and I sit down and said, I need some numbers there. I can't have everything say fund XX, and I need to put something in there as a placeholder so we can get with council.
Yeah.
But if it is an important project and it's going to cost more than this, we would have the funds, and it goes now into the general.
Yeah, right now the stagecoach sweep just goes in the general fund. We haven't, at some point we have to budget that somewhere, because before the year end, we have to show we've budgeted all revenue that has come in. So whether, where that goes, we can discuss that, but yeah.
And this would carry over. So you would do this if we were doing it in the middle of, like, we wanted to start it tomorrow or next council meeting instead of fiscal year, you would do it by resolution, a bar, and then we would put down council approved fund. If you do it at budget, it'll say a council approved fund for planning, council approved fund for contingency. And each year you would say, yes, we're going to continue funding it, or no, we're not. But each year, if say nothing big comes up, no emergencies or no big planning, nothing changed. We have money in our regular fund to do planning, not something new. We didn't just someone didn't donate 5 acres. They're leaving it to the village, and we need to do something with it. That money stays there until the council moves, because it's a special fund, to, if you needed to revert it back to general fund or change what it's for, you could as council, we can't. So it keeps growing, or it shrinks and you reseed it, or you keep growing it. So that's a way you get to hold on to that piece. And yes, it's still in the bank account, so it still gets swept, but it's really just for that reason until the council deems it's for something else.
And that's why we were recommending it be a special fund, so that the fund balance could carry over from year to year.
So this investment is liquid. I mean, we can use it.
Mhm.
There's no restrictions on it.
No, the restriction may be placed on by council. We're only going to use this one as a project planning fund. If we do a contingency emergency fund, this will only be used for emergencies. And maybe we come back to council and say, hey, we had a hailstorm and Chief Manager Capra lost 4 vehicles, and insurance said, nope, we're not going to cover it for some reason. Just for whatever kind of emergency you think it needs to be for, flooding, fire. And that would also continue to grow, and it would grow off however you fund it. It doesn't shrink each year. It doesn't go back to zero.
Or could it be for contingency then for planning?
We could do 2 funds. That way, if you wanted to, or we could do 1, but if you wanted to do 2 and you said, well, I want 50% of the sweep to go there, and I want 5% of the sweep to go here. Because right now, Administrator Romero is correct. I have 0 budget in there. I'm waiting because I got to move some of those zeros around. I don't want to bring a bar to you and then have to bring another bar. I want to try to do it green budget transfers before we start on all our bars. So it would be up to you how you did it. And at the end of the year, you could say how much money is left at this end of fiscal year, excess revenue. And you guys on the last council meeting could say, well, we now want to add 25 more to this, or it is one of those that holds, though. Those funds keep rolling over every year, like lodger's tax rolls over every year, fire fund, different funding source, but Chief doesn't give his money back at the end of the fiscal year, as long as he follows the fire fund's rules.
But in the end, there's still interest bearing accounts.
But still, it would still be in the same bank account, so it would still be pulling to the sweep. Yes.
And I mean, the contingencies sometimes are accounted for in the departmental budgets, right? I mean, where there's no planning budget, and maybe I think to have some allocation for planning would be a good idea. I don't know what.
Yeah, I mean, right now we, like Lori said, she was able to find some money from most likely vacancy savings from when she didn't have a code enforcement officer. And so she was able to pay for these, the survey for these easements to do this stormwater management plan. So yeah, I mean, we look at everything when we're looking at our budgets, and we try and pull stuff that's already budgeted that isn't being used and spend that. But I do think setting aside this sweet money for certain items and setting it up in a special fund where it'll roll from year to year seems to make the most.
We do have some planning. We do have some money for some planning and some engineering and stuff like that. But this would be different. Steve knows he's already got Reclining Acres engineered. But let's say council decides they want road XYZ engineered. Well, we already planned all of that. This is where we could go to the contingency fund to engineer that. Or no, that's a grant. Don't jinx it. But yes, say someone gives us another piece of land and we want to look at getting another grant, but we want to be further along in the engineering, then yes, it would be used for that, or an engineering for the bank, or it would just give you something that holds over every year that isn't going away. And that if a fire truck blows up, doesn't take away from that fund, because it might from other funds if we have to buy a fire truck.
But I think somebody maybe for a master plan for maybe a commercial, or trying to figure out what to do with the 4 or so properties. I mean, that's extra charges. And would that come out of this type of fund?
So right now we do have $50,000 and 101, 12,000 for that. And we've talked about going to Mr. Cog to see what they would charge. This would be extra. This would be your, we talk about our wish list. This would be this wish list. This would be all of a sudden there's a grant out there we know is coming up and we think it'd be great for Corrales because it's going to build, I don't know, I'm going to make something up. It's going to build a wigwag because that's what we've decided we want, but we need planning done for that. But the council's like, we've got to get this money. It's great for our seniors. We would be able to plan with that money and not have to go where, Lori, I know you needed this for grading and drainage, but tell people to quit building. So I think it's a really good idea to have some extra in there, because who knows, maybe that Mr. Cog comes back and says, we'll do it, but it's going to be 70,000, which is still, if they've got enough services, not a bad price, but we only have 50 in there.
Well,
But we could take the 50 that we have set aside for a planner and then
match it.
the other 20 from this planning fund. That's kind of what we're saying is if we set up this planning fund, it's flexible. We could use it wherever we need it. And it could be for these types of things like a master plan, like a plan for the bank, a plan for, whatever need we see.
A new road.
Yeah. But that money rolls over. Whereas the money for the planner from last year doesn't roll over into this year. So now we have 100,000.
So the money
Does that make sense?
isn't for a specific planner, it's for
No.
planning in general.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not for an ad hoc planner, it's for any planning that needs to be done.
So we have a planning position, like contracted on call type thing already in the budget for 50,000 that we could utilize if we need to. But this special fund would be separate and could be used to supplement that.
And it
could be
carries
used
over.
and it would build on itself from year to year.
So if we decide to have a planner on contract, sort of ad hoc planner, like we have ad hoc engineering and attorneys, where would that money come from?
Right now you have $50,000 and that's in 101, 1200.
So it would come out of
That
there.
would be for an ad hoc planner.
Yes.
Or it could be for an ad hoc planner, or it could be for an ad hoc plan.
Okay.
So we all of a sudden decide that Marion's library needs to go through, and National Park says you're not putting it on La Entrada. It's going to take you 10 years to get approval, but you want it put somewhere else. That money or that planner could, and sometimes it's, depending on what needs to be done, you may just want to hire a survey company and not a planner. But that money right now would be used for that. But if say we've already used 50,000 for the library and all of a sudden you want road XYZ engineered, you would fall back to this special. And the beauty that I think of it is, think of it as your savings account, because it stays. If you fund it with 50,000 and you leave it next year, it's 50,000 and the cash has already been pulled out of your bank. It is in your bank account, but it's not part of your general fund cash anymore. It's part of your special fund. If you build it to 100,000, it stays at 100,000. If you build it to 150,000, it stays at 150. General fund budgets go away June 30th. They're gone. Special funds budgets, if they're funded with cash, stay with that cash funding. It's a little different if it's not funded with cash, but this would be a transfer from general fund into a special fund. So it would be a cash funded balance.
But that transfer is only on paper. It still stays in our bank
It's
account.
the same bank account.
Yeah.
But I'm just concerned about, how much it costs. I mean, say engineering for a lot can cost $35,000. Boom. An architect's cost might be the similar.
Mhm.
And so if we have more than one project, boom, we're about $50,000. I
Right.
mean, can we pull from other funds to get?
We have each department head has their things that they're already like. Steve's got roads that are being paid for right now, so he has funding that he is finishing up engineering on roads. So that's already in. This is in our general, the way I'm thinking, and I think Melanie, or sorry, Counselor or Administrator Romero said, is this is those extra things that you guys come up with, or we go to you and say, we want to plan XYZ.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
we
it-
know in the middle of the year, things change. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a good idea. We want to do this. And we're like, got no money to do it.
It's just concerned. I'm planning and zoning doesn't have money for an ad hoc planner though, or money for planning. So if 3 projects come up, and it's going to cost $35,000 per project. I mean, where does that money?
So all of planning and zoning's grading and drainage, all of those things come out of 2,900. They were moved out many years ago by another administration that said, why is it in planning and zoning's budget? It should be an administration thing. So it's in, if we look at the things, Steve Groman's grading and drainage, Steve Groman doing all these things, different places, they're out of 2,900, some are out of 1,200, but it's not, she has access to it. It's just not in her budget.
And we're
And I
not-
don't
we're-
know the history.
Yeah, and we're not recommending removing that 50,000 for the planning position. That's still in this budget. This would just be an additional fund that would build.
So based on the experience since October, we're looking at approximately $300,000 a year, 25,000 a month.
Sort of high.
Yeah.
Depending on interest rate.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
how much
and-
cash we have. So
Yes,
that
yeah.
ebbs and flows right now. So we have some cash that sits in our bank account. We have about 14 million in our bank account. Sits in our bank account that we cannot send to a sweep. Arbitrage rules. We have 2.2 million of farmland and fire department 200,000 bond. You can only get 0.58% interest on that money. We have some other funds that you cannot get interest on. So we set a projection of how much has to stay. So we know we're not going to get into those arbitrage problems. So if we're waiting on reimbursements from the state for capital outlay, we may be sweeping 6 million. When we get those reimbursements, we may be sweeping 8 million. So that number ebbs and flows, but we make sure we don't sweep things that we cannot legally sweep.
But it's a fair amount of money we're talking about.
It is, yeah.
Sweep. It's a crazy question. Can you get interest on the sweep money?
Well, so every night the money gets swept and then it goes back into the account. And then that little bit that you got back the night before from the sweep, then that goes in. And so you are basically building off of the money that you're earning because it goes back in the account. So it's considered.
Mhm.
But as Tanya said, we had to set a point. So You know, like she said, we have, you know, about 14 million on our daily average, but we told the bank, you can't take more than 7 million on any given night. And we can change that number with them at any time. And it takes, I think they said like 3 business days to make the change. But, you know, if we want to do a little bit more, we can do that. But again, we have to be very careful to make sure that we're not using, you know, sending off money that we're not supposed to be getting interest on.
But it's not jeopardy in any way if you move it into that pocket.
It would be illegal.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, some of it is against state law or federal law. So arbitrage rules apply.
Percentage
So
of the general fund.
so we just make sure that never leaves our bank account. So at some point when all the farmland money is spent out, except for the new bond, we'll probably have, no, the new bond won't matter most likely because we'll draw it down. Then we will look at, okay, which money in here, can be swept and is legal to be swept and made money on, and which isn't, and then that number can be changed. But right now, one of the big ones is that farmland money has a very low, I wouldn't even put it in an interest-bearing savings account because you're probably going to go over the amount.
Councilor Murray.
No, thank you. So straighten me out on this, and there's 2 questions I've got. On the planning fund, you have a transfer in and out, and it says 49,994. I can never tell, is it coming or going?
So that's one of the things I can't wait to teach Juliana. It's all the same fund, and it depends on if you put it as a debit or credit. This would be a transfer in,
Okay, so if it has.
and it would come from general.
Parentheses around it, it's going out. If it doesn't, it's coming in.
Yeah, it's really a back end. They're horrible. If you would like me to put transfers out a certain way, I want to just write in transfer out on my ones and transfer in.
Yeah.
State doesn't particularly like it, but I'll be happy to put parentheses around which way it's going. This would be an in.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to determine is.
Oh, trust me, and it's one line and it's horrible. Everything else is beautiful. Cash transfers, I sometimes will do them 4 times before I think I'm right.
Counting principles, if you put parentheses around it, it's going out, or it's a debit.
Well, yes, but when you're talking cash, guess what? Cash is against a budget. It's a negative.
Okay.
So it's
But it's
I hate
coming
it.
into and out of the accounts. That's what I can't try it.
Yeah, this one would be a transfer in, a transfer out from general revenue.
Okay, so, all right.
CG, put a line underneath it. That's gonna tell you what it.
I'll just write the words because we're gonna have fun.
So council's okay with us setting up a special fund for this and funding it with an initial 50,000?
Okay, but here's my other question for you is, if all you wonderful departments don't spend your money, and our projections, our income comes in and it's greater than our expenditures, at the end of the year, what happens?
Goes into your bank account.
Okay, so can we put that in special again?
No, that was one of the things we talked about. You guys, we can wait until we're done, and you guys, we can come back at the final budget because we'll do June 1. We have to have the preliminary, and then by July 31st, we have to have the final budget with the resolution and input it into the system. So I think we already have a date set because we need time to put all that in, especially if you make lots of changes. If you don't make lots of changes, it's pretty simple. But you can, as council and administration, go, wow, we still have $1 million over revenue. We would like to move. That is what you guys do. And we will provide you with that amount over revenue, expenses over revenue, but we will not get that. We will not get super close to that till July 16th, 17th, when we are finished paying those bills. We've created accounts receivables, we've created accounts payables to give you an accurate number.
And that's why the July meeting is on a Thursday. I think it's July 21st is the date of that meeting. And it's because of when we need to be able to give you the packet, because we have to meet that 72 hours, but then all the numbers don't come in from the state. So there was no way we could do it on a Tuesday. There was just, and then still be able to get it back from you guys and input it into the state forms, because the forms that we give you are not the forms that the state wants it on.
Or the system.
Yeah.
And we're also doing year end.
So my other final comment about this is I hope that we will resolve any standing issues we have with budget audits. That, I know, bite your tongue, but, but we've had one that's been sitting there for 4 or 5 years.
So that's gonna be the one, that audit issue is gonna be based on, one, we need to do more bars. We need to make sure we're doing our bars and we're making sure that we meet our budgets. And that is also the accounts receivables and the accounts payables. I have already spoken to our audit firm and asked them once Juliana is ready and thinks, the accounts payable person, Albert, is ready, because this is gonna be the team thing, to come in and learn something else to go over. Some of this is as simple as, and I don't mean, I don't mean simple, but we get gross receipts tax. So January, you bought something. February, they paid their gross receipts tax on the January items. March, we get that. We've got to project that number for June before June is even here. So some of it's that. Some of it is rolling back payroll. If there's 3 days in last fiscal year, we got to roll back every piece of payroll, every deduction for those 3 days. We did ask, Raina's actually over there working now and doing some stuff. And we asked part of last year, it was waited till the June 30th to call in the accountant, to have Javier come in. Right now, I had him come in. We started looking at stuff and I said, tell me, is it once a week? Is it once every other week? We are really building that, but I can't make you promises. I'm going to try really hard.
Sure you will,
But
Well, and I do know Juliana has already identified a procedure in our accounting system that had to do with date things are posted.
Mhm.
And, you know, she was taught by the previous person, oh, it doesn't matter what date you put in there. Well, yeah, it does. It matters a lot. And she's already figured that out and is working on making those changes and is training Albert the way to do it, and that'll help a lot with that one audit item.
And
It was just the previous staff didn't realize that was tied to that audit finding.
And one of the
So
other
that's
things
already
is we don't have to close out our budget. There is a way in Tyler to operate out of 2 fiscal years at the same time. We're going to try to get some training on that when Juliana says she's ready with the accounts payable person. So we can roll that stuff back. And we don't have to do it all on June 30th. We can make adjustments to our budget with your blessing. Some of it may have to come back to you. Some of those back end things until we run a trial balance. So,
And as long as we're the ones that catch it, that's the important thing. So that's what, you know, as Tanya said, we've already started bringing in the accountant, because there's some things on the back end that the accountant has to do for us. And so we've already started bringing him in to work on this stuff instead of waiting until year end like we did last year. So we're already making adjustments to address those issues.
Trying to wait for your W-9 the right date.
Right.
Yep. And do we need to, I know we're going to do a planning fund. Are we doing a contingency fund or going to skip that for now?
The which fund?
We do both.
Both.
Create it, but don't put any money in it.
Well,
Create it and come bring it back?
We could
Okay.
do the 50 in the planning for now and 30 in the contingency, and then see where we're at towards the end of the budget year.
They're just numbers until you guys say final budget. In all reality, nothing will get transferred until after July. So
If
you're,
you create it, don't put any money in, it won't be so. You look at it twice and you say, well, we're changing it, but we're not, because we haven't put anything in the first place, so better leave it that way.
we have 2 more and then we're done for today. Lodgers tax fund. Lodgers tax, I will be bringing a bar to you next council meeting on that. We're going to be bringing the cash carryover forward. Like I said, that's one of the things I want to do is cash that's in special funds. The owners should know where they're at. Some are going to be slower because I do have to get into MIP and see whose money it was. MIP is our old accounting program. But lodgers tax is something that you guys use and spend, and it gets spent by lodgers tax board and then a resolution from you. So we brought that up to you.
I just point out, I think there may be an additional 0 in the final budget revised 25-26. Instead of 20,000, you have 2.
Yeah, it is. It's wishful thinking.
Is what?
Wishful thinking? That's a revenue line. It's wishful thinking. Yeah, no, it's a typo. Thank you, Counselor. And then the only other one it will be, unless someone has questions on lodgers tax. Yes.
So what are we paying for contractual services?
So a lot of those, they're the resolutions that come to you. I did talk to Lodgers Tax Board today. I did a meeting with them. If we are giving the money to the nonprofit, it's under your contract, the resolution. If like for Christmas Day Caballos, I'm the sponsor person, they tell me what they want and then we get Lodgers Tax to say yes. I make the PO out directly to those companies. So like Supply was the sign for Christmas Day Caballos. So your contract is a resolution.
And just for council's information, I think the Lodger Tax Board served for a lifetime.
They do. They have no term limits on
Right.
Lodgers Tax Board.
And so they're on like the Supreme Court.
Jeez.
It's an analogy.
And then the oh, sorry, we have two more. Sorry. Where is animal control?
Animals.
No, the special fund.
No, it was the 25,000 special fund.
It's on here.
Okay, you guys have it. I just don't. So as you see, there's been no expenses in that could change by the end of, because they still have Dennis Friends grant. If that changes, then we will come with the final budgets and say they spent 5,000, so we're requesting a transfer in, and I'll label it as such for 5,000 to bring them back up to that 25 unless there's a change. Okay, and then let's do economic development, which is Main Street. I brought it to you because you guys also funded that. It's been 55,000 per year.
Okay.
And the Main Street contract will be before you at a council meeting, probably first meeting in May.
So can you give me a breakdown of the 55,000? Angela, and then she
It's
has-
all, I think actually she writes the check. She's probably better. Main Street?
Yeah, that is for the agreement, the quarterly agreement, which is a $13,750 payment. We pay them in 4 separate quarters. Yes, so that's where that money goes.
And I think they pay it out. 45,000 is for their executive director, which is Angela, and then I think 10,000 is for their assistant.
Got it. Okay. I was
Yeah,
wondering
and then
what the
I
breakdown
believe
was.
they pay, from their fundraising and stuff, they supplement those, but I believe that's how the breakdown works here. Because they asked for the extra 10,000 a couple of years ago, and that was to bring in an assistant. So Angela didn't get a raise, but that's what the extra 10,000 was for.
Thank you.
But the assistant hasn't been working for several months.
Yeah, she had a family incident and hasn't been working with them. So I don't know if they've got somebody else that is filling that role, or I'll ask them at the next board meeting.
Just for clarification, the planning was 50 plus 30, is that right?
50 for planning, 30 for the contingency.
Yeah.
Or actually, I think the final thing from council was don't put anything into it yet, but make the fund so they can see where we're at the end of the year for contingency. But to start, seed fund 50,000 for planning.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Yeah. So total in this budget, we have 100,000 between the on-call planner and then, or on-call architect technically, but that could be used for planning, and then this.
Okay. Any more, Tanya?
What is the date when we'll see the next budget?
Do you want my wish?
Yes.
My wish would be we see it, God, I hate saying this, first council meeting in May.
12th.
Yes, that's my wish. That way, if there's some big changes, we can do it because we have to have it approved by June 1st.
Yeah.
And that means the second council meeting in May is the 26th.
Mhm.
So we can already start putting some of those. There's a lot of sheets that this goes from this into multiple sheets before we can even put it into the LGBMS computer system. So then when we come back, that May 26th, we just highlight where we've changed. We make those changes. Then we bring it back again to you. We could bring it back to you another time in July if you wanted to discuss it, but prefer final vote that Thursday. So it gives enough for good public input, but also there's a lot of back end work that goes on.
Yeah. If we need to do another pass in July, we'll have to call a special meeting.
Because that's the only meeting.
That's the only meeting in July.
Okay, so I would definitely think at least to the May 12th and then be able to bring it back to them the second meeting would be nice if they want to see any major changes because we got to have it inputted into the state by June 1st.
Yeah.
Any other items?
It's a Thursday. Let me pull up my calendar. Yeah, this was all approved when we did our Open Meetings Act back in December.
16,
Hang on.
3rd.
I'm not going to push you.
Yeah, sorry, it's the 23rd.
Is that
Yeah.
enough time? 23rd to the
Yeah.
31st?
If you're asking me, Mayor, Administrator, and Council, if you don't all of a sudden say change 50 line items, 50 line items would be doable. If you don't be like, no, fire's now going to go down to 800,000 and police is going up to 2 million. As long as you have smaller wish items, yes, because the special funds we will have done, and a lot of those, some of them are yours, but a lot of those are grant controlled. So they don't, what they're going to be is what they're going to be. You're going to vote on them, but if Chief Martinez has cash carryover from fire fund of 200,000, it's 200,000. So that's not going to change until we do closeout July 5th, later on closeout, and then we look at the audit and then we come back to you for a bar.
The idea is to have no changes in between the preliminary budget and the final budget, but we know that there's going to be some adjustments just based on things that come into us for final year-end numbers.
Right. So if we decide not to eliminate the fire department, put the money into the library, then we could, that's enough time.
Well, you might not have a budget at all, actually.
Council Murray?
So how many of these grants do we have matching funds?
So, grants with matching funds. So Salsi Park will be one. But the State Land Water Conservation Commission said they had money to cover that match. They didn't. I just finished another asking for the whole match from the state grant match. So that one we would come back to if we don't get it. We're gonna get it. But there's really nothing in there that is a matching. There's the bathrooms, but we already built that into this budget.
Nothing yet. I mean, if Steve gets the map and the LGRF.
We built that in though.
Did we already build
Well,
that in?
because he'll also have bond.
That's true. Yeah.
But
This
we
was
like
bought sale.
to spread that bond out of the lifetime of the bond for 4 years or whatever before we have 3 years to spend. When we get the paperwork, we'll know how long he has to spend it. But I can't think of a single grant right now. Code enforcement did write a grant, and I gave him some pointers, and I think that's going to be. I talked to him about doing in kind, so I don't think there's any cash. I mean, we really try to make not big adjustments. The Bosque cleaning grant, MRGCD is picking it up, so I can't think of anything that's got money. I would have put it in here if there was a match coming from Village Cash.
Thank you.
Okay, any other items?
Just as long as we paid our tariffs, we should be in good shape.
All right. Well, I guess meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for department heads and council and staff. It's been quite a meeting. Thank you.
It's really playing with this.